Hello, hello. Welcome to another stream. Let me double check that everything's functional. Let me double check that everything's functional. Oh, well, hello, Kick. Double check that everything's hello, Kick chat. I don't think I've gotten a single view on Kick. But if I can close out of it for the sake of it, that would be nice. It looks like it's active on Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. Let me make sure audio's good. Okay. Kick is good. YouTube is good. And YouTube is good. And somebody's texting me right now. Okay, so today we're talking about stop killing games. Now, I like getting biases out of the way. I do want to be a game dev. I want to be a game dev one day. I've had some projects make decent progress, but I've also had a lot that kind of go nowhere. So, and I want to be I don't want to just be like an indie game dev. I don't want to be Toby Fox. I want to be the next, like, I want to own the next Blizzard. I want to be the next Todd Howard or Kojima. That's the dream. I just got to make my Police Knots and or Terminator ripoff. Or Terminator, whatever you would call it, game. So I haven't watched I have watched Accursed Farms for like years. I like Ross Scott's stuff. I've been following the Accursed Farms, or Stop Killing Games, I don't know what you would call it, drama, almost? With Pirate Software, with a few other things, for, like, as it happens, pretty much. I didn't follow the start of Stop Killing Games too much, but, I have, like, a couple criticisms. The main one is that it's called Stop Killing Games, which probably gets like D-ranked in the algo for being called, for having the term kill in it. And that's really it, actually. So there is the Pirate Software stuff, which was a pretty big deal at the time, because basically there hasn't been all that many big streamers, big people willing to even cover Stop Killing Games, because it is kind of like a niche or smaller topic. So I'm already out of ammo with that. So like there's been very few people willing to do it, and so one of the only people is Pirate Software, who like hates it. And it wasn't very clear at the time why. I don't even think it, like, if you're being super generous, it's still unclear. However, I do feel that he has a very, like, I don't know what the word is, innate bias, or like a bias, an obvious bias, in the sense that Pirate Software owns, or wants to own, a what is it called, live service game, or potentially game studio, and is currently working on it on the side of Heartbound. So that's happening at the same time as this, as him disregarding Stop Killing Games. And I guess if you don't know what it's about, it's essentially that online games should have an offline mode. That's like the really basic thing about it. All online games need a mode or some kind of server, or some kind of practice that would basically allow a game to continue to be played while, or if a company dies, or if they don't want to support the game anymore. The big thing that started this was oh fuck, I forgot what it was. It was some like niche game for Ross Scott specifically. But the one that really started Stop Killing Games was, I think it's called The Crew. What are you playing? The Crew? It was The Crew? Yeah. Well, everybody has their own individual games. The one that got Ross Scott into it was like a pretty obscure one. But The Crew is the one that started the petitions as a whole. Or the particular petition as a whole. Playing a game called Incision. It's Quake. You should ask Matt about it. He likes it. Or likes the look of it. So I think that's just about all of the stuff about it. I think Asmongold covered it, but I honestly don't remember what he said. So let's start the video.
Hello, this is probably the final update to the Stop Killing Games campaign. Though I'm coming at you a little bit like a time traveler would. It'll make sense in a minute. Time traveler? As a refresher, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement to stop publishers from effectively destroying video games they have already sold to customers. Now, we've gone about this in many ways, but it's easiest to divide this up by things we've already done and things we can still
Oh, I want to let him finish, actually.
Because there's about a dozen things we've already done. Yeah,
Okay, so part of this incentive is kind of like the way that live action games are structured. Live service games are structured. Where a normal game, you pay $60, or yeah, let's just say like a normal AAA game. You pay $60, you own the disc, and you can play it for as long as your disc survives, but you own like the literal physical media. And you can even copy the media if you want to have it preserved for as long as you can preserve it. However, live service games, you can't really do that, and you're also investing a lot more money. Especially if you actually, like, enjoy them, which if you didn't enjoy live service games, this is also another problem, where I think, like, a lot of live service people are kind of, like, in a weird spot with it, where they don't really care if a game survives or not. Because so many of them have become so... what's the word I'm looking for? Like, a lot of live service games have just, like... They're not made for people who care. They're made for people to play and then move on. Like, throw in your $1,000 for your, like, billion gacha roll so you can get your JPEG and then go play a different game. But that also is, like, a lot more investment that you're getting... than a $60 purchase. And a $60 purchase, you know, you're getting like the disc. Well, not anymore. You're getting the disc, you're getting all the files on your computer. You can run it by yourself, you can take it offline. Atrophy, that's a good word for it, actually. But a live service game, you're paying like $15 typically for like a World of Warcraft or whatever, and you're putting that in for like literally like 2, 3, 4 years, or as long as you're playing it. So it makes sense that you would want to, you know, preserve it for as long as you can. If you're paying like, you know, triple, quintuple, dectuple what you would for like a normal game.
In fact, here's a list if you want to pause this. Going over this again will be a video in itself. I'll talk more about some of this towards the end.
Okay, so things that they've already done. Submitted complaints to the EU's consumer centers. Dead end. Submit a petition to Canadian Parliament. Dead end. Make contact with the BEUC, which might be British consumer something. Ongoing. Submit complaints to the Verbraka Central on the crew. Issue escalated at agency, depending. How the fuck? Oh, I see. Contact the UFC KHSA on the crew, ongoing. Submit complaints on the ACCC. Issue escalated, ongoing. And ask EU petition on the destruction of games. So there could be a violation, but it has to be handled through member states. Initiate a lawsuit in Brazil. Failed due to requiring sales figures on the crew in Brazil, which they could not manage to obtain. And submit complaints to the ETC on the crew. No response.
So that just leaves things we can still do, which are only 2 items. One is for the UK to sign a government petition to bring this issue before Parliament. Though, keeping it real, I'm not terribly optimistic about this one, since the government response has been a mess by every definition. It's a long and boring story, but the short version is it's hit a bureaucratic roadblock and will stay stuck unless it gets more signatures. But the one that has a lot of power, so much so I think it could change the course of gaming history, is the European Citizens Initiative. Now, I said I'm approaching this like a time traveler because with the trajectory we're on, these are both going to fail.
Oh,
so
yeah?
I figure, why wait until they actually do to tell people? Both the petitions end in July. The Citizens Initiative in particular on July 31st. This video probably won't change the timeline. It's just a last-ditch attempt to wake people up on it. The European Citizens Initiative failing kind of stings. Again, this one is crazy powerful, but the hurdle we just couldn't get past was that it requires 1 million signatures from citizens of EU countries. And we've only made it just under halfway. That's really too bad, because I have high confidence this would have solved the problem of publishers destroying video games. Now, why do I say that? Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that in the EU especially, it's almost a state of lawlessness regarding the practice of game destruction.
That's like most.
Okay, I don't want to put people to sleep here, but the quick legal argument is that the vast majority of games with an online requirement say they can be terminated at any time for any reason. Or Blizzard likes to say any or no reason. But according to the EU Commission, that might be a violation of Directive 93/13 EEC, which protects consumers against unfair terms in consumer contracts. So if that term is unfair, that means that part of the contract is null and void. And if it's null and void, then what does the law say about how long your purchase lasts? Well, it doesn't. That's the whole mess. So if there are no legal guidelines, what are consumer expectations for how long video games last?
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. But in general, like live service stuff is kind of new to the market, relatively to everything else, I guess. So there's like a lot of laws and a lot of stipulations there's a lot of like EULAs and user rights that just do not exist for live service stuff that ought to by normal laws, but because like they're in a weird position, they're on the internet, so lawmakers haven't gotten to them. A bunch of like little exceptions. It has not been a quick process, and it's been something that like will probably, and to be fair, even though it is technically a violation, there are absolutely deals that companies can make that could probably violate that. It's like, oh, we're gonna pull out World of Warcraft from the EU if this law does not get changed. Something like that. I could see. I doubt, but I could see.
Well, indefinitely. Even the average online multiplayer video games from the 90s can still work today if you didn't change the hardware or software. So the law wasn't written for this situation. The industry's terms might possibly be illegal, and traditional expectations are games last indefinitely. Now, of course, publishers can't support games indefinitely, but by not giving expiration dates or end-of-life plans, that might be the situation they've put themselves in.
Yeah.
I cannot emphasize enough what a mess this is. If you were an impartial judge just trying to interpret the law, you'd have a headache.
And I think one of the things that is funny is that this is so everywhere. But it is like some of like the most important, the largest video games that simply like exempt themselves from having any sort of like responsibility. So like a smaller game, I think like WildStar or something is actually available for is actually available for like you can just make your own server and play it. It's very hard to do that, but it is technically possible. Versus like World of Warcraft, you cannot do that legally. Although from my understanding, it's a lot easier than would be typical.
I don't know what you would do. You'd probably tell the EU Commission they need to make a law on this because this is a glaring omission.
Absolutely.
So being in the middle of this quagmire right now, if we had rolled up with 1 million signatures demanding that the EU give us basic consumer rights for video games, that would have been the easy way out for regulators, because then they would have a mandate. That's what I meant about my half-joke slide about politicians liking easy wins. This situation is such a mess that trying to settle this under existing law is more work than creating laws under a consumer mandate. And thanks to the action we pushed at consumer protection agencies, Doing nothing is no longer an option for multiple countries. We've made sure of that.
Oh, yeah.
But none of that matters because the initiative is failing. Now, my original thought was that, ironically, it's difficult to get gamers to care about games because a whole lot of people are cruising at maximum apathy these days.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I think that's true.
For most of the past year, the initiative has bounced back and forth between being the third and second most popular active initiative in the EU.
Oh, really?
The only ones that topped it were far more serious social issues. So that says to me, the problem isn't getting gamers to care about games. It's getting people to care about anything. And frankly, that is a checkmate move. If people can't care enough to write their name on a form to protect their rights and stop things they care about from being destroyed, then yeah, I can't do much with that. I am not a Care Bear that can shoot light out of my stomach to make people give a damn. Plus, it's hard to know how many people don't care and how many never knew about the initiative in the first place. It's certainly not for a lack of trying. I have tried to push this everywhere I can, though I'm an amateur at all of this. I
kind of agree in that sense. There are like a few things I think he could have done better, but for the most part, I actually don't think he's done a terrible job. It's definitely like, it's a hard time to make people care, and I think there's a lot of people who are famous and do have the reach and pull and simply refuse to do so, like Pirate Software. And, you know, fucking Asmongold definitely could have done a better job. Although, again, Asmongold and Pirate Software are both much more American-based, so even if they did care, it's a debate on whether or not that would have actually done anything. Versus, like, the Yogscast, right? I mean, the Yogscast isn't super relevant, but imagine if, like, they were at their zenith and said something, that would have definitely done a lot more. Yeah.
A medium-sized YouTube channel for making comedy videos involving gaming. That's it for my advantages. Now, I've tried to leverage this to push the initiative, get as much help as possible.
If Wilbur Soot said something.
Great at marketing and networking, you know, stuff you need on a campaign. Yeah, in fact, I never wanted to do any of this. I've been beating the drum on the problem of game destruction going on 10 years now, but the problem only got worse and worse, and nobody was doing a damn thing about it. So when the opportunity to do something...
I also think that another issue has been, like, just bad, like, normal human mind association, and that a lot of the games that have been preserved are usually ones that die. And so they're typically ones that are bad, but that doesn't mean that, like, you know, World of Warcraft can't die. It just takes another game coming along to beat it, but that doesn't mean that people won't like it either. Even after that. I think it's just a fucked up thing. So people are like associating in their mind that like games that are preserved are bad, even though it's like these are actually the ones who did a good job of going out of their way to make sure the game was still playable.
Finally presented itself in the form of the biggest game shutdown from a European company. I pounced on it as hard as I could. So I've hated doing almost every aspect of this campaign and will be very happy for it to end. But I would have hated myself even more if nobody stepped up to do anything. So in light of that, I think our exposure has been phenomenal. We've gotten a lot of support or just fair coverage from major YouTubers. Some ordinary gamers, Young Ye, Louis Rossman has been a bro especially. Gamers Nexus, Linus Tech Tips, Game Linked, Philip DeFranco.
I think so far, none of these people are in the EU.
Asmongold, Black Panther, Second Wind, including Yahtzee and the other Frost, Spawn Wave, Civi 11, Mandalore Games, Bellular News, Digital Foundry,
Bellular is
Josh
British,
Stripe
I believe.
Hayes, Tech Tangents. Honestly, it goes on and on. I'm leaving out a lot of people. My apologies on that. We've gotten game news outlet coverage. PC Gamer, IGN, Rock Paper Shotgun, Kotaku, TechSpot, Eurogamer, PC Games N, Destructoid, Game Rant. There's more.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Regular news outlets.
But another thing is that because this is a citizens initiative, I think what would have really benefited this is like, and this is hard, right? But this is definitely because Ross Scott is like a smaller YouTuber. But even paying people like $500 or $1,000 to like, hey, at the end of every single one of your videos, you need to put stop killing games at the end of it or at the beginning of it or something like that. It's like this, or even just like requesting that they do that. I don't even know if some of them would have needed to been paid, like Mutahar, right? Despite all of his weird oddities going on right now. Muta probably would have done it if he was just asked. Again, it is going out of their way to do it, so maybe they wouldn't have. It would have been like a little annoying for like anybody playing, but yeah, or anybody watching. But I think it would have overall been a good thing to ask of people. Is like, hey, I need you to keep putting this in your thing, or make like very specific videos targeted at an EU audience and then put it in there, something like that.
Euronews, Variety, Forbes, also many non-English outlets for France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Hungary. There's a lot. And some developers. Running with Scissors, Landfall Games, Mala Industria Games, Octay, those awesome guys. And developers of emulators like Dolphin, PCSX2, and PPSSPP. And some more indie developers I may have lost track of. I'm sorry. And this last one is hearsay, but it's my favorite if true. Developers from Ubisoft Ivory Tower. The people who made The Crew, which is the game we used to get all this action rolling in the first place. Yeah,
oh, wow.
It turns out a lot of developers who spend years of their lives working on something don't like seeing it destroyed by publishers. Who'd have thought? And I've been saying yes to almost all offers for interviews, questioning, or any kind of outreach opportunities that came our way. I honestly don't know how many interviews I've done on this issue at this point.
Postal
it's
too, yeah.
Easily dozens, though not all of them were on video. One was even for BBC Radio. And then there would be the spontaneous offers that would pop up throughout the entire campaign. Like working with members of European Parliament to push through questions to the EU Commission. Having meetings with the BEUC as another route to the EU Commission. Meetings with representatives from GOG. That one was looking promising until they fired the representatives we were talking with, then backpedaled. That sucked. Meetings with representatives from Heineken. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. Heineken, of all companies, supports the initiative because it ties in well with some gamer lounge campaign they have going. That one was going to be a huge boost for us, but they ended up having to postpone it a year, which is too late. I've had meetings with Fudo, F-Camp.
What are you playing?
Probably
Incision.
The funniest of these was another member of European
it's grown on me a lot.
who was also on the Committee on Culture and Education. Their staff reached out to me, set appointments, canceled.
Cult Committee on Culture and Education is called Cult. That's bad.
Kept having to reschedule 3 times. And this is all on top of the day-to-day outreach, organizing, and just basic communication with God knows how many people. Again, I've hated doing this because I have to fight all my instincts not to bother people. I hate being a pest, but you kind of have to do some of that.
Yeah, you absolutely do have to be a pest in order to get any kind of
thousand
campaign
emails
done.
Connected to the campaign, trying to do outreach, research, and just keeping things together. I haven't done that much on Twitter because I don't have much of a presence there. Same goes for Reddit. Yeah, Reddit. I received so many reports of promotions of the initiative being deleted.
Oh my god.
And some of the ones that stayed up are some of the most hostile to the initiative that I've seen. Yeah, isn't Reddit just a wonderful place to be nowadays? We did get a Discord launch where people could independently organize, so I wouldn't be bottlenecking anything if others had better ideas on what to do. I believe currently they're trying to contact TV stations about this in Europe. Something I never would have had a clue how to do.
Oh shit, nice.
That's exactly the sort of thing that I was hoping would emerge. Yeah, I really want to emphasize that from the second the initiative launched, nothing had to go through me. It's been there, in public, this entire time, with easy multilingual guides at StopKillingGames.com. We blazed a trail to make it easy for others to act on this. But that wasn't enough. So it feels like I've been running a rickshaw carrying people to the destination to save games, except it's breaking down halfway. The work on this has never stopped. I never wanted my involvement on the campaign to last this long. I kept hoping after launch, somebody with more reach and better at campaigning could just point people to the destination and get it done. But no, I've had to keep hauling that rickshaw. Not every week, but there have been many weeks on the campaign where I've been working 12 to 14 hours a day to keep things moving to get signatures. And the only way I was even able to do that was to burn some of my savings and put everything else on hold. I've been kind of stupid about this because it's our only shot. again, this is an amateur effort. That means there's
like
no staff and no salary. So if I need help with something and ask a volunteer to help with it and they disappear on me, well, then they disappear on me and I need to do it myself.
That
or if
sucks,
I can't,
ass.
then I need to hunt down someone else to help with it and hope they don't disappear on me. Meanwhile, my channel has been suffering, as my viewers can tell you. I'm stretched too thin. Now, I have been maybe fairly criticized for not running a fundraiser for this.
Yeah, I do think that is a fair, like, you should have.
The first is, until recently, I didn't know where we would spend it. People would say, buy ads. But the initiative could be considered political. And YouTube doesn't allow political ads in a lot of EU countries.
Wait, really?
And
oh, in
neither
EU
does
countries.
Twitch.
Okay.
Good luck reaching gamers without YouTube or Twitch. So
Kick.
taking money with
Kick
no
would have been
plan,
good.
that's a grift. And another reason is I am one of the worst people to manage that sort of thing. Financial paperwork is an Achilles heel of mine and seems to take me 10 times more effort than anything else.
Isn't he dyslexic?
I mean, I can do accounting, budgeting, math. That's not a problem. No, I mean having knowledge of all the obscure forms you need to fill out.
Oh, that's
what
fair.
all the tax laws that apply are, what all the specialized terminology is, and just all the hidden rules.
Sweet.
Now you might say just hire an international tax accountant for multiple countries.
Yeah, just hire
Okay,
one.
There goes a third of our funding then. So what are we even doing? I cannot emphasize how much I struggle with financial business crap like that. So the thought of me putting together a fundraiser for what might be considered a political fund that needs to adhere to laws in multiple countries, and if I make a mistake, that could be considered a crime? Oh, no. That's like asking somebody with severe dyslexia to write a book report on war and peace. I am the wrong person for that job. But I've still been trying, to the best of my ability anyway. I didn't discover this until late in the process, that even though general ads were out, sponsored messages were still an option for some countries. And some mysterious benefactors emerged offering to pay them directly.
Mysterious benefactors.
But that means I needed to find all these channels and broker all these deals. So as a last-ditch effort, I've been looking through hundreds of targeted non-English gaming channels trying to find good candidates for this. Then work with bilingual liaisons for each language.
Jesus
then try to put
Christ.
together a contract and figure out what a good offer is for the amount of views we expect. I am so out of my depth on this, but I'm still trying. At this point, I've browsed through more clickbait AI-generated thumbnails than I have the entire rest of my life. I honestly can't decide which part of the campaign I've hated the most. Acting as an advertising broker, not knowing our budget or what's a good offer, or trying to research laws governing this practice that don't exist, except I didn't know that at the time. So how are these sponsored ads going? Are they going to get us the signatures? As of recording this, I don't know. It's a Hail Mary pass as it is. I'm just going to assume it won't, and I'm completely spent on ideas on how to get more signatures. I did everything I possibly could to make this campaign work. It wasn't enough. Or rather, I did everything that made sense to me. I did receive a lot of suggestions of things I do not think would have worked. A bunch of people told me to make short-form videos on this. I tried that. They got a fraction of my usual views.
Yep.
I've been told make more videos.
Short form is like very funky. I still have no idea how it works really, but it doesn't seem like it works amazingly either.
On my channel saying the same thing. But lots of views on my channel doesn't help if it's all the same audience. Because people can only sign once. We have to reach new audiences. I've been told become a full-time streamer.
What?
I might consider it if I thought it would work, but I don't. I've been told I should
that
make a
seems
bigger
super
deal
stupid.
about countries crossing minimum thresholds. Well, I didn't want to celebrate that because that's an arbitrary number. They're the minimums. All that really matters is that 1 million number, and we're a long ways away.
Well, the thing is that, like, the point... So, okay, I actually do think that was a bad decision not to celebrate that. Like, I know that seems stupid. It seems not good. But, actually, if you celebrate minimum numbers, there's a shitload of sites that'll pick it up just for views. And they'll portray it in a way where it's not just the minimum, which, you know, you can be like, oh, that's shitty. They're not portraying it correctly. But that's still more eyes on your stuff. It does have, like, a bit of a kickback, a bit of a, what is it called? A bit of a negative, like, effect associated with it as well, because where people are more confident, they'll be more apathetic, potentially, and that's exactly what you're fighting, is apathy. So, but so I'm gonna go with it's like neutral, but he probably should have celebrated the minimum crossing requirements.
Now, another suggestion has been to make a plea to big gamers like PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, Moist Critical, Markiplier, anyone like that. Well, yeah, I think that might be a great idea. Our biggest obstacle in the campaign has always been getting enough exposure, and they have exposure. I think any one of them could end this with one video and change gaming history. Problem is, I have no idea how to reach any of them. Plus, I can understand if they might shy away from this. First, they're probably busy people. But second, they may not want the kind of heat that comes with changing gaming history.
So that doesn't sound right. I think that might have, I don't know. It's very much a, well, if you did it, it could have turned out better, but it also could have turned out the exact same way, I guess. But I think PewDiePie probably would have said something. He isn't making, like, main channel content anymore, right? So maybe, but, you know.
Even if it's for the better. And third, if they back this, then 1 million people might mob them to back something else, and then there's no end to it.
So they're already doing that, though. So Ross is coming at this like he's the first one to do it, but this is actually, like, there are probably dozens of companies already contacting them. The bigger thing would have been, like, they're already getting dozens or if not hundreds of people trying to talk to them. So I think his reasoning is bad, but the effect, I guess, is the same.
I understand some people wanting to sit this out. I mean, yeah, it really sucks that we can't get enough attention on this badly needed change in the games industry, but I'm not shocked either. Honestly, I'm already punching way, way above my weight class on this. My main promotion video for it got a little under 250,000 views, and about 15% of my audience is from EU countries who are eligible to sign. So that means I shouldn't have expected much more than 30 to 40,000 signatures from my audience, and we're over 10 times that. It's almost like a lot of people out there don't like having their games destroyed. Anyway, most of the criticism I've seen for how I've run this campaign kind of comes down to be more popular. Yeah, sure, maybe everybody else knows how to do that. I don't. I kind of view that critique as similar to don't be poor financial advice. And that's from people who support the campaign. For all the support and fair coverage we've received, there's been some opposition too.
Oh, is this the part where he talks about Pirate Software?
Maybe even 90% of people who are against the initiative are against it because they think it's doing something it's not. For example, the #1 criticism about the initiative that we've never been able to shake is that it's unworkable because you can't expect publishers to support games forever. Yeah,
that's not the point, though.
That's why we've never asked for that. I must have said this 100 times now. It was written on the website from day one, but this keeps coming up over and over again. See, that's the thing. As soon as you say 3 words on requiring end-of-life plans, gamers especially will jump to some conclusion, and I never know where they're gonna land. Ironically, non-gamers tend to be much better at understanding the initiative because they're not coming with a whole bag full of assumptions. A couple other criticisms are how this would violate copyright law by forcing publishers to give up their intellectual property. No, it wouldn't. Some of you may want to pause this part.
So the initiative wouldn't conflict with copyright law for 2 reasons. 1, customers would have no additional rights beyond what they were sold in the first place. A lot of them aren't being sold any rights at all, but I guess that's the point, right? Is to change that. The ability to run a copy of the publisher's game. The only difference now would be that the publisher would no longer be able to permanently revoke the license without any fault from the customer, e.g. hacking, online cheating, etc. Because the initiative focuses exclusively on the outcome, a working game, and not the methodology of doing so, no specific demands for IP are being made to the publisher. This leaves full discretion to the publisher in how they wish to manage their IP. The publisher might deem it necessary to release more IP to fulfill the requirement of letting the customer retain a copy of the game. The initiative is not specifically mandating that.
Or how this won't work because of end-user license agreements. That's also not a problem.
Or
how this isn't possible because publishers already have agreements with other companies and don't have the rights to distribute that code. We're aware of that. Yes, the initiative is still possible. Those are the ones I've seen most organically. Beyond that, there is a clear patient zero where others come from. Okay, I really don't want to do this next part, but it's become a liability for the campaign for me not to. Our biggest critic
Totally.
by far.
I do think that has been an issue, is that Accursed Farms, Roscott, has not been combative enough. He needs to fight Thor more.
Is YouTuber and streamer Pirate Software, who goes by Thor. If your only exposure to Stop Killing...
Also, so there is like a funky coincidence, I think, because like just like what, a week or two ago? Yeah, I think it was last week. Thor's like own drama just happened, so releasing this at this time is like kind of funky. Although this is also totally necessary for the game. This is like probably pre-planned, like years if not months in advance, or months if not years in advance.
Games has been this video, then you've been misinformed. This video is by someone who does not understand the campaign, has been trying to stop it, and has been making up what it is about. I am not saying that lightly. I will prove it in a minute. Now you might be thinking, okay, so some YouTuber got something wrong on the internet. So what? See, that was my thinking too. The problem is how incredibly influential this YouTuber has been. Remember that list of coverage on the campaign? Well, best I can tell, Thor's coverage has been bigger than literally anyone else on those lists, except Asmongold. And the only video Asmongold had on this bigger than Thor's was about Thor's video. So for all practical purposes, Thor here has been the #1 voice on the campaign, and he's been lying about what it is.
Totally.
That's a bit loaded, though. In this case, I'm using the second definition of lie. I have no evidence it's the
creator of
first.
false submission leaning
This
impression.
video came out right as we were building momentum. Then, except for one boost in Germany, the signatures started drying up like clockwork. This put me in kind of a no-win scenario, too. Because if I ignored it, then a lot of people are going to get misinformed about the campaign. But if I did a response video, which is not something I wanted to do anyway, then it might look like drama farming, which could understandably turn off a lot of people from the campaign. Because it's
I think the desire for drama is actually like a lot higher than Accursed Farms likes to think. Because I think he's very much, and I think he's getting a lot better about it. This campaign, I think, has probably taught him a lot. There are way more people out there who are drama hungry, like TLC people, than there are people who hate drama and are turned off by it. And even then, just because you personally get ticked as like a drama thing, if you're correcting information, I think more people will be far more accepting of that.
At all.
I hope that makes sense.
So I quickly made this video trying to clear up all misconceptions and concerns about the initiative with timestamps for everyone's questions, hoping the truth would eventually come out. I can see now that was a mistake. I should have just embraced the drama. To this day, I'm still getting frequent comments and emails about the same falsehoods about the campaign that originated in this video. Well, now I have nothing to lose. If we don't get the signatures, then none of this matters anyway. So if this campaign is failing because of me not talking about this, then I'll at least correct history here on the way down. I'll get this over with and go over what I think are the biggest points of Pirate Software's videos. I'm not going to go over everything because collectively Thor has made hours of video on both me and the movement. I'd be here forever. Believe me, I could address smaller things too, and kind of already have. All right, let's start. Okay.
Also, another thing he could do, which is something that like works on a lot of people, like literally just say, I didn't want to make this video. I don't want to be a drama seeker. And then most people will probably be fine with you, like, talking about Thor. I mean, most people, like, a lot of people don't like Thor anyway. But this getting out there, having more public stuff, I think would have been just better.
Point number 1. Thor does not understand what Stop Killing Games is.
I think he's intentionally
Here it is in his words.
Stupid on this. I think he's intentionally not understanding what Killing Games is.
Initiatives is basically, we don't want single-player games.
No.
To have DRM that the developers can turn off.
No.
And thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change.
What?
They need to be specific that they're talking about single-player games.
They're not.
That do not need a server to support them.
No.
And as much as they want it to be about specifically games where it is a single-player game that has always online functionality, it would
Dude, this is crazier than I remember. I didn't think he said this.
Instead of just targeting single-player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is. Stop Killing Games includes single-player games, but nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression. This is what I mean. It's harder for gamers to understand this because they come with so many assumptions. It's like that saying about doctors being the worst patients. So let's clear this up. It's the first line on the website. Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. But the movement includes all this stuff from earlier, and he was mostly talking about the initiative. Well, the short version is the initiative is about requiring publishers to have end-of-life plans for games they've sold to customers in the future. So when they shut them down, customers can continue running them without their support. The long version depends on what kind of transaction is being made. As you can see, it's not easy to explain in a soundbite. But if you notice, we don't make a distinction between single-player and multiplayer games. That's because the law doesn't either. So why make this even harder? Both the movement and the law are making distinctions on how games are sold. Also, that part he said about it affecting all live service games, yes and no. It would affect most live service games in the future, but the initiative is not retroactive. So that's one thing Thor doesn't understand, but he also seems to think this is about converting multiplayer games to single player. Once again, he made that up, and I have no idea why he thought that.
Transitioning an entire multiplayer server-side game into a single-player video game, which means rebalancing the entire experience around single-player, rebuilding everything in the entire game. How are you going to do that with Final Fantasy XIV? You're just going to make all the raids soloable? Imagine the day that World of Warcraft shuts down, and suddenly you have to make it a single-player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking.
That sounds awesome, actually.
Because they would have to.
That's not what he's saying, but I would like
as
that.
A single-player experience. The idea that suddenly you need to make every single live service game playable single-player offline? No, dude.
Correct. No. This one is particularly baffling to me because I've heard most counter-arguments before.
Oh, shit.
But until Thor, I've never heard this one. That we want the industry to convert all multiplayer games into single-player ones. I keep saying it. You never know where gamers are going to take this.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close to getting it.
It is vague, and because of that, it will impact.
He never has that light bulb moment.
No, he doesn't.
Well, he is correct in that statement. It's almost as if that's not what the initiative is asking for. But those were his streams with a smaller audience. What does he say in his big YouTube video with over 1 million views that he had time to research?
If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single-player experience, and then taking away support in the future.
Now he's changed it again and is making up how it's about single-player games are advertised. What is he doing?
It needs to be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically.
It is super specific, but he's like deliberately misinterpreting this.
But adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem.
No, that's not it at all.
And there are some people that'll say, well, just make it all single player.
Like
well,
you?
I've explained that that doesn't make any sense in the first place. If you're making it all single player, you'd have to carve off all of that, and it's developer time and money. These are two different ideologies.
Not at all what he's
that's
fucking
okay
saying.
To have two different
it's
ideologies.
so shit.
I just won't agree with it.
But those aren't the ideologies. Nothing in the initiative is asking to convert games to single player.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single player games.
Yeah, so why does he keep bringing it up? This is a total red herring.
If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms.
No, he's getting a new thing wrong now. We're not against them existing. We're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer.
Yeah, holy shit.
Just use logic.
This is horrible.
If we didn't like them in the first place, why would we care if they're being destroyed? He says he gets it, but he doesn't.
Let's talk about
because he's like Thor's like incredibly up his own ass. Thor cannot admit whenever he's wrong, and that whole like, it'd be funny if he does piece together like a shitload of other dramas that Thor has been in, like the fucking thing where he went on with a psychologist and was like, no, I literally do not understand. What do you mean I'm a narcissist? What do you mean? I'm not arrogant. I'm not like up my own ass, so I can't be a narcissist. And it's like, You kind of are. And it was like so it was like incomprehensible to him that he could be like wrong, or that there could even be like a flaw with him, which is it's so weird. Because even like some narcissists will be like, oh yeah, I have a flaw, I'm too perfect. But like, it's super weird how he's like, whoa, I got the BFG equivalent. Cool. Because yeah, it's just super fucking weird. Oh.
Bad business practices. In the case that a studio is making a live service game and they sell it to you as a product, they say that you are purchasing the game or you are buying the game, when in reality you're actually purchasing or buying a license to that game. I think that we should be fighting about that. The initiative
that
is
what it's fighting about. Jesus
it's trying
Christ.
To say that
well, maybe not that
games need to stay
specifically,
in a
but like
functional, playable state.
Yes!
Which is not calling out the language that is being used to manipulate the player.
Not the way Thor worded it, but I might not have heard him right
Okay,
either.
I don't know if he's doing this intentionally. I'll be charitable and assume he's not. But this is some serious obfuscation.
Totally.
He's complaining that the initiative isn't focused on another topic he made up. I mean, what is that logic? Hey, the initiative doesn't address how Capcom changed the look of Dante in the Devil May Cry reboot either. That may as well be what he's saying there. I am not aware of a game on the planet.
That's like such an obscure reference now. You ever think about that? How like the topics that you like were once like super big deals are like no longer relevant. But they might have been like formation points for your own opinions. God damn. That was random.
License agreement that says you are not buying a license. Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely.
Absolutely.
This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years, when you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends. The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those. The games industry is trying to upend basic commerce.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you have to go back.
That's been like the whole issue the whole time, is that there are so many laws, arguably too many laws, especially in like the EU, regarding what you pay for and like service provisions, fucking like just random consumables, food, water, electricity, and all these things. And past that, entertainment. There's just so many entertainment laws that just aren't accounted for. Oh, fuck me. I don't think I can get back up there.
Back to feudalism before neither of those things are true. Why even have consumer laws if you have no rights?
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it
Yeah, exactly.
won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough. We just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out. I admit, guys, this part hurts. To see the biggest voice on this issue get it wrong again and again and again, then put that same wrong information on blast to a far bigger audience than we can reach. It hurts.
Totally.
He doesn't get it.
That sucks shit.
He doesn't understand what we're asking
get
for.
it.
Now, to be fair, it sounded like he was getting a little closer in this video.
But then he misrepresents it even more, doesn't he?
It's at least the fourth video he did on this.
You want that to stay in a functional, playable state? That means the devs have to release either server binaries or somehow carve off the game to be a single-player experience now.
That's better, but he's still talking about converting the single player right to the end. He never completely got it. So Pirate Software did not understand the initiative. Maybe he still doesn't.
I think it's malicious. I don't think it's accidentally, like he just doesn't understand. I think he does understand and he wants to.
If that passes, enjoy never playing an MMO again for the rest of your life.
deliberately misinform people about it.
The person that plays MMOs.
It really wouldn't. And I've explained why in that video, but the short version is companies would have to stop liking money for that to happen. Lots of money. But his number one criticism is that he thinks the initiative is vague.
Incredibly vague. Too vague. Very vague. Damn vague.
Very vague.
Vague. That is vague. Too vague. Vaguely written. Vague. Incredibly vague. Vaguely worded. Vague. 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 This is vague.
This goes on. Well, from Thor's perspective, his logic is pretty sound for this part. But the thing about logic is it's only as good as your assumed truths. And he's said multiple times now that he thinks the initiative is only about single-player games. So since he's expecting the thing he made up, but that's not what the initiative is asking for, he thinks it's vague. Because for him, it is.
Yeah, because he doesn't...
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games. It is vague.
Yeah, in fact, if we look at that long definition again, let's add a subsection just for Thor. Single-player games with an online DRM check. Those would already fall under this broader category. So Thor is expecting this. Again, I don't know why, but instead he's seeing an initiative that covers all of this. That's why he calls it vague 50 times. The thought that we want what we're asking for and not the thing he made up seems to have never entered his head. The initiative is trying to stop the destruction of games. That's the whole point. It covers the types of games most in need of saving. If we only covered this tiny subsection, that would save maybe 1% or less of games that get destroyed.
True.
This would do almost nothing. I'm not saying there isn't one, but I literally can't think of a game that meets this criteria. Every game I know of with single-player content that's been destroyed has been designed to run server-side, not locally. Older ones like that tend to have the DRM cracked, which is not an ideal solution, but that does stop game destruction. And newer ones with the Nouveau or something tend to have it removed by end of life. So I say less than 1%, but this might save 0% of games. I'm not sure. The initiative is actually not that vague. Though to be fair, some people did get hung up on this part. A reasonably playable or functional state. True, that is not 100% specific. There are reasons for that.
So maybe taking that from like an emulator? Like how an emulator would consider something playable, where you can open the game and you can fuck with it yourself to make sure that it's like playable. But it's not like really playable. There's lots of bugs and glitches in it. That's what I would assume that he's talking about.
You know how in law, police can stop a suspect with reasonable suspicion? Or a jury finds someone guilty beyond all reasonable doubt? That's because the number of situations you face are so varied that the law has to inject some common sense somewhere. It's the same with games. A multi-million-dollar MMO is a different animal from a budget arena shooter. It won't work making highly specific laws. That's one half of it. The other half of it is this sentence is an olive branch to publishers. I've heard complaints this isn't specific enough. Okay, but you know what the alternative to this would be? Here, I'll show you. The game must be fully functional and contain 100% of all features as advertised.
No, that shouldn't be.
As a publisher, which requirement would you rather meet? More importantly, this sentence shows the EU Commission that we're acting in good faith and trying to find a balance. I think some of the people asking for this to be more specific may not realize what they're asking for. I know some won't believe this, but a hell of a lot of thought went into the wording of the initiative. I think it's almost perfect. See, the initiative isn't even a proposed bill, it's a negotiation. Our side says we want games to be functional when publishers end support, so they need end-of-life plans. The industry's position is going to be against whatever we write and claim they need no regulation whatsoever. Then the EU Commission gets to decide who is more in the right here. The Citizens Initiative is the opening offer in these negotiations. Trust me, the industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars will make its position known to the EU. We don't have to make their case for them. So for this negotiation, simple is good. That's why we're straight and to the point for what we want. Then the industry will argue against that. Then the EU Commission might look for compromises. You don't start a negotiation with a bunch of compromises because then it'll get so watered down you won't save anything.
Well, yeah, I think he could describe it a little bit better, but that's essentially true, yeah. In a negotiation tactic, you actually typically want to go in, like, basically the balance that you're trying, it's about basically finding a bunch of different balances throughout the whole thing. Whenever you go in there, you want to go in basically as hard as you can without like directly repulsing your negotiation partner. The only exception is if there's an arbitrator that has more power. So your goal is actually to appeal to the arbitrator the most, in a way that achieves your goals in as best way that you possibly can. And then through negotiation, your thing will inevitably be whittled down more and more until it reaches the compromise point that everyone is willing to accept, or that the arbitrator is willing to take a damage from one or both sides on. That's how negotiations work. To be fair, not many people understand negotiation. Even seasoned diplomats seem to have a hard time with negotiation sometimes. Oh. So I can understand that, like, somebody isn't able to, like, comprehend that. But, like, I think Ross is explaining it pretty well here, actually.
Oh, and that long definition list are actually logical extensions of the simpler language used in the initiative. It's actually kind of slick. Plus, there's a character limit on these things. The EU Commission doesn't want you trying to cover 50 edge cases at this phase. All right, so Pirate Software did not understand the initiative.
Nope.
But point two, he also did not make it easy for the truth to get out. I had never heard of him prior to all this, but during the campaign, I had dozens of people contacting me, telling me how wise and reasonable he is, how he's really pro-consumer and represents developers.
He definitely wants himself to come off that way, but I think he's actually, like, completely different to how people portray him and he portrays himself. I think he's actually kind of, like, a horrible person. Because he wants to come across as Total Biscuit 2. That's my opinion. He wants to be fucking, fuck, I forgot his name. John something. John Cynical. He wants to be him part 2. But he can't be. He can't be because his opinions are actually incredibly anti-consumer. And I think it's partly because he has his own, like, consumption-based service in a live-action game and a non-live-action game. And he wants to profit as much within the realm without changing it. Despite, honestly, him being tied as, like, a major backer of Stop Killing Games would probably do gangbusters for his channel and his brand in general.
Really talk to him. Great, let's do it. So this was my first encounter of him.
Oh shit, now this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to.
Jesus
that is awful.
Christ.
That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude.
The direction that you made up.
The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass move. I think this is ass. This is complete garbage. All of this can eat shit then.
In the Resident Evil
Mansion. I dropped the mask
Mansion.
entirely. I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire ass. The whole thing.
Jesus.
That sounds
well,
stupid as shit.
Sounds like you'd like that from your furry posts.
Oh, yeah. I can see why people like him. It's like listening to Mr. Rogers.
Ouch.
As you can imagine, we've been less than thrilled that Thor here has become the dominant voice of the campaign. Especially when he doesn't understand it. Though I did find the used car salesman part amusing, since if people could read my mind, they would understand how much I dread anything resembling sales or marketing, or just trying to push things on people who aren't interested in them. I'm not exaggerating when I said I've hated having to run this campaign.
This is the most uneducated take I have ever seen in games.
Now, as for that one, I do have a bachelor's in criminal justice.
Wait,
which
really?
might explain why I'm coming at this
He's a
from
fucking
very
lawyer?
different angles than he is. You know, focusing on people having rights and checking what consumer law actually says, rather than what's most convenient for publishers. Though I think I know where that comment is coming from because I've gotten it before. Here's what I think is happening. Online-only games have a client and a server, but a lot also have middleware that developers don't have permission to distribute to customers.
That's absolutely true. So that's stuff like, particularly in Oblivion, that would be like SpeedTree or PhysX or something like that.
Or depend on microservices they have no control
Or like, there's MMOs that use both of the same things.
And the server software isn't even designed to run on a customer system. You can't just cut out the middleware and remove the microservices because they're integrated too deeply. That would still leave the game bricked and could take months to fix and be a lot of work. So I think some devs think we're saying all they need to do is just release the server binaries at end of life and yay, everything is solved. And that's why they think we're ignorant. Well, for some games that could work, but not ones like these. Plus, that's not what we're saying. First off, we're not even mandating the methodology because, again, doing that could run afoul of copyright law. Second, this whole diagram is looking at a game that exists right now and was never designed to have an end-of-life plan. Those might not be salvageable. So what we're saying is let's take a game in the future. No code has been written yet. It's still just a design document. Okay, so we have the client portion as usual. Then we have the server logic. Now we'll bring in our usual middleware and microservice vendors.
Okay.
Nope, stop. Now the EU says we can't just brick customer purchases like we've been doing if we want to sell our games there. So that means we can't keep making all these same deals the way we have been. Now we need to renegotiate with the vendors to allow for an end-of-life build with their software. Or redesign things to make the microservices easier to sever at end of life. And vendors probably will renegotiate. Otherwise, they'll start losing sales to everyone who wants to sell games in the EU. But say a vendor refuses anyway. Then we need to go with vendor B, who will offer EU-compliant solutions because they will be happy to take money away from their competitor, vendor A. Or maybe we need to abandon one of the microservices altogether and come up with an in-house alternative that is compatible with an end-of-life plan.
I mean, this all sounds right. I have nothing to like criticize here, I don't think. From what I learned in school, from being a computer scientist, this actually sounds like completely correct. I think even publishers, like, you just use money and you could get somebody to comply for bigger studios like Activision, right? I don't think it works exactly in this way, but I think it's close enough that people get the point, and like it's generally good. The point isn't to be 100% accurate, just to get the point across. But I don't know. From everything that I read about MMOs, this seems right. It feels like there's something missing, but it seems correct to me. Sorry, grabbing a drink. I'm wasty.
And if the server can't run on consumer hardware, well, maybe now we code it in a way that's more versatile and can be compiled to run a stripped-down version with less features for the customer machine at end of life.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I get what he means here. So maybe not on like a console. I think consoles, there's kind of going to be no way around it because they're so unversatile. Although, you know, modern day ones aren't actually that bad. But like, if you're telling me like you stripped out a guild system, or you stripped out like excuse me, like constant server checking or something like that, I think that's fine, actually. Yeah.
Or,
you stripped out the auction house.
Then we scrap that, but still give customers some form of server software at end of life, because now we've planned for this, and inform them it requires specialized hardware, and they're on their own for getting it working. And these are all just suggestions. The publisher would get to decide how they want to comply. 4 is not alone in developers trashing what I just said. I don't know why, but some of the nastiest insults I've received on the entire campaign have been when I try to explain this is what we're asking for. This part in particular triggers some people to no end.
That video made me actually mad.
Stop.
Like real mad. Not like fake memes mad, like actually mad.
Why?
Like,
dude, we're so fucking
upsetting
stupid.
people is not our goal, by the way. We actually want this transition to be as easy as possible for publishers and developers.
Well, so definitely,
however,
the thing is, at the very least, with something like Genshin Impact, for example, almost everything is actually run on the client. There's very few things that are server-side or would be difficult to make run on a client. There's stuff like inventory things that I think are technically server-side, but that would require like a month or two. Not that the Chinese would ever comply with this, but as an example. But for World of Warcraft, I think it is possible for everything to run on a fairly simple server because it was all made in like 2000, right? 2000 to 2005. And a lot of the server difficulties, from what I read in the book, the WoW Diary, a lot of the difficulties aren't in running like 20, 40, 50 people. It's running like thousands of people. It's an infrastructure and quantity thing, not so much an individual thing. So if you're doing it like as a group of friends, or you have like your town in Oklahoma of 50, 40 people, you could run it from like a single computer. And I think that has been done in the past, you know, because a lot of people before WoW Classic was a thing ran their own versions of WoW. It is hard. It is not like the easiest thing in the world to do, and it's a little expensive to get the server equipment to the point where you can have a large group of people, but it's also not like impossible at all. It is technically illegal as well.
We are stubbornly against proposals that won't stop commercial games being destroyed, because that's the whole point. Anyway, you heard Thor's comments for me. In light of that, I think I've been pretty diplomatic. I am just trying to get this initiative passed.
Like Dark Souls.
If that means I have to get insulted all along the way, okay. So with that in mind, I reached out to him, not expecting to change his mind, but to at least clarify things since he got so much wrong. If you're gonna hate us, at least hate us for what we're actually doing, not for things that are made up about us.
Yeah. I got a message from Ross. There were many other misunderstandings in your video. It's clear that you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that. That is correct. I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it accurate is. I do.
Wow.
He says that so confidently. Oh yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
In other words, the customer is told explicitly that the access ends at the time.
Because that's a part of Pirate Software. He's a narcissist. He cannot comprehend that he can't comprehend something. Unless it's simply something that he hasn't researched yet. That is the only exception. He's like, well, of course I don't know much about industrial metalworking. I've never looked into industrial metalworking. But it's like, oh, I've looked into growing, I've looked into gardening. I know everything about gardening. I even have my own garden. Yeah, so, you know, he sucks. Like, I comprehend that I know a shitload about game development. I know a shitload about game business. I know a shitload about, like, random game companies and just shitloads of trivia. I also understand that I probably don't comprehend a single fucking thing about what it's actually like working at a big studio anymore. I don't think I know what modern times are like, and I don't think I fully comprehend, despite listening to so many fucking videos about it. I don't probably understand what working at a company in the 90s was like. I love listening to that stuff, or early 2000s. But Thor is like, oh no, I worked at Blizzard, so now I know how like almost every single game company functions.
Time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law.
And so like the only response that Pirate Software has is like, yeah, of course I know, I worked there, and yeah, they all do work like that. What's your fucking point? Where I think or the other response that I could see, although he's a narcissist, so whatever. The other response that he could have is like, well, I don't actually understand, despite him making so many fucking statements in the past that make it seem like he does.
Most is
I don't like Pirate Software. This is the bias I have, but I think I am
for those
correct.
who don't know much about live service games, that's like saying the Earth isn't round. He says verifiably false things so...
Wait, what did he say? On that scale of like Earth is round?
Is... patently incorrect.
Patently incorrect? Okay, for those who don't know much about life,
I backed up enough.
At least hate us for what we're actually doing, not for things that are made up about us.
I got a message from Ross. There were many other misunderstandings in your video. It's clear that you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that. That is correct. I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it accurately is. I do.
He says that so confidently. Oh, yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
Totally.
In other words, the customer is told explicitly that
totally
their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law. Most is...
Okay. World of Warcraft would be likely considered under the law as a true service. In other words, the customer is told explicitly when their access time ends at the end of payment. Most live service games do not do this. Yeah, that's true. I think that is true. Like a shitload of like gacha games, right? World of Warcraft does, but what about like Overwatch? Is Overwatch explicit with whenever it ends? I don't think it is. I think you buy it. And this was another big thing. Honestly, this probably would have been a better jumping off point, is at the end of Overwatch's 1 service, but Overwatch 2 is basically the same thing, so maybe not. It could be considered a continuation of service. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going.
Patently incorrect.
Patently incorrect? Okay, for those who don't know much about live service games, that's like saying the Earth isn't round. He says verifiably false things so confidently. If his viewers don't know any better...
Yeah, because he worked at Blizzard and everything must be like World of Warcraft, yeah.
How can I blame anyone for believing what he says about the initiative when he talks like that? It's incredible. And he does not wish to discuss this with me or anyone else in the initiative. Why not?
Would you consider reaching out and talking to Ross about it? No. And the reason why is because I found his entire statement over the YouTube incredibly disingenuous.
Yes,
oh,
this issue
me.
which has bothered me since I was a teenager
off.
and I've spent 10 years on trying to push back against is me being disingenuous. Where is this coming from? Well, it comes from a slide I had in my promotional video, the half-joke slide. He hated this, and I think he may have a rather privileged view of politics.
You want to put together legislation because it's the right thing to do.
We did!
Not because you can convince legal representatives to do it no matter what.
It's both. These are not mutually exclusive things.
Yeah.
The idea that we're going to go through this because it's an easy win, but not the right win? No,
it's both.
Dude.
It's both.
God.
What the fuck?
So he misunderstood the initiative and misunderstood our intentions. And in his words, this is why he refuses to have a dialogue with the movement. So now I have to address it. Let's keep it basic. He calls me disingenuous, implying I don't believe what I'm pushing for.
Is there...
That this is some sort of...
Okay, wait. No, I just realized something. Pirate Software does nothing but easy wins. That's his entire fucking channel, is easy fucking wins. Dude, that feels like schizophrenic to me for him to say that. He literally took the easy way out. He decided that it was better to live stream than fucking, work on his game that he got donated money for. He decided that it was better to spend money on fucking, like, streaming equipment and, like, games for his stream than it was to fucking... Oh my god. Than to make his game that he accepted donations for. Did I see his, Jesus Christ, that made me so angry realizing that. God damn. Did I see his controversy with Animal Well? Yeah, the one where he was, like, cheating. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty blatant. And he claims to not be cheating because he can't be wrong. That one, I don't think that was, like, his thinking was like, oh, I can't be wrong. It's whatever. His thinking was, I have to maintain my brand, so I'll say I'm not cheating. I have to maintain my brand of being the smartest guy ever on YouTube. So I'll fucking not... I'm not cheating, guys. It's just really fucking simple when you think about it. Like, Jesus. But yeah, and not only that, but he, even on YouTube, he took the easy win versus the right win. He decided to start making shorts, and he got, like, super fucking popular from shorts. Despite that kind of being frowned upon as, like, ADHD material. And streaming instead of making, like, actual videos. Despite, you know, that being considered, like, I don't know. It's just so fucking... It's like every time, like, I can't believe he said that. It's like, oh, you can't do that because it's the easy win, not the right win. when he fucking takes the easy route every single fucking time. Jesus Christ. We could watch it after this, or maybe now. And even that, him cheating is an easy win. Dude. Okay. Yeah, let's watch that. Thor Animal Well. 3 minutes, 7.5 hours, or 1 hour. How about this one?
What's up, guys? Quick update on Thor. Now, it still stands that it was solved before Thor solved it himself, right?
Oh. And also, there was nothing on there that said we did that blind. We were playing around with the community. Everybody was trying to chip in to give it answers and shit. It took us.
So, first of all, it was solved before Thor solved it on stream. Second of all, the way Thor presented it, at least in the YouTube video, and I'm guessing on the stream as well, is...
In this house, we solve puzzles. And we don't look at the answers. Because where the hell's the fun in that, bud?
I got this crazy idea, chat. I got this crazy idea. And then boom, he solves it.
Yeah.
Or he walks into the room. This is my first time in this room, isn't it? Wait, what is that in the wall? Oh my god, a picture. Guys, it's the size, it's the lengths.
Dude, how does he even understand what those symbols mean on his, like, first entry into it? That's insane. There's no way.
So, to say that, you weren't pretending to be blind on that is not really...
Like, if this guy has such, like, a high understanding, why isn't he making, like, the next graphics engine? Why isn't he making, like, the next lighting engine? Why isn't he John Carmack too? But that's, like, exactly who he sets himself up to be, is John Carmack. Like, not like literally him. He's not him, but he's setting himself up to be like the greatest fucking thinker in the world. He's the thinker.
Sure, you were absolutely showing it as if it was oh my god, I walked in here, I noticed it, I solved it on the spot.
Yeah, he totally did.
It was like 5-6 hours for most of those puzzles. I did that over an entire week. It was like 6 days of streaming.
It just doesn't make sense.
You should post the full 80+ hours? No. Sunder, one of Sunder's things, I believe that...
So somebody asked him to post the full 86 hours. Again, there is not 86 hours of footage, I'm pretty sure, because he's only streamed 40-something of it, according to trackers.
So he played it for like 86 hours?
Side point, not really that important. Yeah, that's the...
If that's
the update
true,
on the
maybe?
situation. Not really much has changed in my mind. But I thought one should be fair, and one should point the facts out, especially if they gave out wrong facts on the previous video. So, all right, that's all I have for today.
Okay. I'm gonna keep this open and subscribe to it on my other channel. This guy seems cool. Yes, dude, I made a post on Reddit about this guy. I know jobless shit, but this dude just won't take responsibility for his actions ever. Not in Warhammer, not even in misreading. Jesus. I didn't know Thor played Warhammer. Does he have a Warhammer controversy? Thor Warhammer. Oh, apparently there's a song. Maybe pirate software.
Have you heard about Warhammer? You mean Warhammer 401k, where you have to take money out of your 401k in order to play it because it's so expensive because the minis are just so goddamn
That other game? Oh, Animal Well? Yeah, we just watched that. Yeah, this guy's fucking, like, well, you could literally say, like, any game. You could literally say that he's, like, hasn't taken responsibility in any game that he's ever played, and I would believe you. That he's just, like, cheated to the end of it or looked through a guide at the start of it. Like, if he had never played Silent Hill before, or, like, Dead Space or something, and knew where every single secret was. Like, if he played the Dead Space remake, and he knew where it's, like, all 12 of the, artifacts were. It's the MMO by Blizzard. Oh, World of Warcraft, yeah. Oh, yeah, that drama. That was fucking crazy. He can't take responsibility. Also, great pause screen for Ross here.
That's uncharitable to the point of being silly. Besides video evidence going back 10 years, this is not a hard concept to grasp. I hate seeing creative works needlessly destroyed when people are trying to save them. and video games are where I see that happen the most. Of course I believe in what I'm advocating for. Maybe
oh no, not again,
not
again.
There.
Okay, thank
I'm
God.
a little surprised that didn't sink in.
The idea of getting it to pass with an easy win instead of pass because it's good is a problem to me. Absolute problem.
It can be both.
That's not how politics works.
Also true.
Do you think things pass because they're good ideas? Tell that to people who still have lead in their water.
He is like disabled to that point. Absolutely, he is like I think he is like emotionally disabled. To a degree, absolutely. Well, did you? Maybe I'll watch it after this because I keep referencing it, and I feel like I don't know. I only have like a few people here, so if anybody new comes in and I keep referencing it, it's not gonna like change anything. But like his the thing he did with Dr. K was fucking insane. Where Dr. K had to explain to him that he's arrogant and kind of a narcissist, and he was unable to accept that at all.
A lot of gamers are jaded with good cause.
Maybe I should watch it.
The industry has been shaking them down every which way. The perception that it's hopeless to protect our rights against billion-dollar conglomerates is often correct. If I told people this would pass just because it's a good idea, I wouldn't believe me. This slide is a half joke, but it's also some totally cynical reasons that are often true to let people know we have a chance and this isn't utterly hopeless. Do you think I or most people in the movement give a damn why politicians might pass something good? What we care about is that they pass something good. We don't need them to be true believers. We need them to pass good law.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is
well, also another thing is that like a lot of politicians did not get elected to like by you for the most part, right? Because one, a lot of people just don't vote. A lot of people care about like single issues. This was a big thing in the UK that I learned about. God, my actual politics phase coming into college. I don't know what you're talking about with the Dr. K stuff. Okay, we will watch it after this. We're not getting to Tommy C tonight. But like a big issue in the UK, for example, is that there are single issue voters. They have a very high percentage of single issue voters compared to like the US or something, right? Which means that they only care about agricultural subsidies. Fuck me, I'm fucking stupid. Oh, I have a life. Okay. Or they only cared about Brexit, or they only cared about this or that or whatever, right? So there are a lot of politicians, I did it again, that don't give a fuck about whatever you did because they got elected before you even like existed a lot of the times. Or at least me, because I'm still fairly young. So that's fine if they don't care about the issue. If they care about like an easy win that'll get them more voters, that'll get single voters out, that's fine.
As it possibly gets in politics. I think most politicians would find this slide funny. It sounds like he's offended I have a low opinion of the political process. Well, I'm the one in the trenches here. I'm not sure if he's upset at me or just upset at reality.
I thought I had to hit buttons.
Yeah, I am too. Anyway, he went on to delete my reply to him.
Out of that.
Thankfully, someone backed it up, and I figured, okay, he hates this. It was thrust upon him by his viewers. I'll just leave him be. Well, that was a mistake on my part, because then he went on to make more videos about me and the movement, now reaching over 1 million views, still broadcasting the wrong information on us. I guess I'm being petty here, but this is alien thinking to me. Why would you call someone out, then run away from a conversation with them when they say there's a misunderstanding, but then go on to make more videos calling them out? Sir, that is not gentlemanly behavior. All right, I know this is going on too long, so I'll get to the final point. Thor misunderstood the initiative, misunderstood our intentions, and misinformed a lot of people about both. But the irony is, I think he would have hated it even more if he did understand it. Because first, he doesn't see any of this as a problem.
Gaming isn't in need of saving. No, it's not a form of planned obsolescence. It's called the game no longer being profitable and we turned it off. No
games do have a lot of issues. There are a shitload of issues with video games. Oh god. I think to a degree games need to be saved. I also think that people always make like a market replacement. But there's a lot of cases where a market replacement doesn't function. You know, we saw that with like Halo killers or World of Warcraft killers. or COD killers, where the market replacement just isn't nearly as good. So even if a game does die, there's no like guarantee that you'll be playing something better. So I think it's good to like have games preserved, at least to a small degree, right?
Destroyed here. These are live service games.
Yeah, you heard him. No games are being...
Like, if Mario died, if there was not a Mario and all you had was Bubsy, you'd be like, what the fuck is a Bubsy? That's like the most accurate opinion, I think. Yeah.
Destroyed. Does he just say anything? Is that why he's popular?
Ugh.
More to the point, and what I wish he included...
Yes, he is. So he has so many clips on his channel about just random shit that has nothing to do with video games. Like, he has so many clips about, like, his bok choy garden and how he saves money by freezing food. And it's so stupid. I think dude might be getting paid by Blizzard to say that, because his dad has a good stake in Blizzard. He is more inclined to say that. He also had... Thor is also producing a live-action game, so this feels like direct, what is it? Conflict of interest. And he should not be, like, dissuading people nearly as much. He should be like, I have a game, I don't want to talk about it. Whatever. Let me pull up a different tab to make sure I'm not lying. Pirate software live service game. They do have a project for making like a Minecraft clone that's live action. The Google AI says. Or maybe it is Minecraft. But yeah, he has like a lot of like biases that I think make him incredibly unreliable in this situation. Like he's incredibly biased towards live service games. So if he doesn't understand, and I think he does understand, if he doesn't understand, he's just stupid and a narcissist. If he does understand, then this is a complete conflict of interest and he should not be talking about it.
In his main video is he supports games being destroyed.
A very strange demand from people in the gaming industry where live service games should live forever, whether in the hands of the developer or otherwise. And I can't get behind that shit. I think live service games getting sunsetted is fine. I've always thought that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I have no problems with the end of a video game.
See, I wish he started his big YouTube video with that message instead
like,
of
there's
deleting.
something agreeable in that, I think. It's like, I think you should seek out new experiences. I don't think you should play like the same video game 100 billion fucking times over. But like, if there is a game with the quality of like Halo, right? And it's like a shorter game, but it was a live service game. Like if Halo was live service, that would be fucking unacceptable, right? And that's how a lot of people treat their like favorite live action, I keep saying live action because I'm fucking stupid. But if Halo was live service, and you would, like, everybody would have a huge fucking problem with that if it like suddenly got sunsetted because a season didn't do well enough. I don't mean Halo Infinite. I mean like Halo 1, 2, or 3, or like all of them were live services. I have no problems with not having a job. True. Well, there's all those people that just like replay World of Warcraft like over and over again, right? I think that's pretty entropy pilled. That's pretty boring pilled. Boring core.
It. Instead, he presented himself
that's just my opinion, you know? People might think, oh, you're just playing like, you know, for me, and I think this is one of the issues. I don't think there's like a huge amount of innovation, and especially in like the indie dev market where there should be. Like especially for FPS games, to a degree, it kind of feels like once you play, and me specifically because I do play a lot of them. A lot of FPS games kind of turn out to be the same way. I wish there was more innovation. If like 2 of these just didn't exist or suddenly died, I don't know how much of a problem I would have with that, but then somebody else would have a giant fucking issue with it. So like, it's the thing I respect, and you know, spiritually I might have an issue with it, but like, I think that's it's a good thing to not have your fucking game die, to keep it playable.
It's pro-preservation and not wanting the medium to die out.
It's incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so that our medium doesn't die out. And it never will. And that's the whole intention of all of this.
So he doesn't want games to die out, except he's fine with that.
Yes.
I think there's some cognitive dissonance going on.
Well, he doesn't want games to die out as a concept, but he's fine if people like lose access to something that they paid for. Yeah, no way, dude. If you're paying for something, even if you're paying with your free time as a free-to-play game, you can't fucking say that.
And he's against killing single-player games that only have a DRM check, okay? But then says people who buy single-player games with more than a DRM check are stupid, and he doesn't play those.
I don't buy games that are always online single-player games. I refuse to play those because it's stupid.
That's some tough talk coming from a fan of Diablo 4.
It's actually really freaking good, dude.
Yeah, that's holy shit.
Great. Systems design is great. Storyline has been fantastic.
Dude, direct contradiction here. God damn. Fucking Ross Scott here dropping bombs.
The characters are good. The voice acting is great.
So is he saying he wouldn't have played Diablo 4's single-player campaign if it didn't have forced multiplayer also, even though he's praising it and appears to be playing solo? Or is he saying that people that just wanted to play Diablo 4 single-player are stupid? I admit I got lost on his stance there. What's more clear to me is we're not on the same side. Here's a list of some popular games that are all at risk of being destroyed at some time.
Can't fucking see anything.
The Stop Killing Games movement sees any of these being destroyed as a problem, and they're exactly the kinds of games that would start being protected if the initiative passed. Now, a lot of these do have single-player campaigns, but I believe they all require more than a simple DRM check. He says over and over that his problem with the initiative is the wording, and it's vague. But there is no wording he would like that also saves games like these, because he's on the opposite side of this.
Yeah.
If he's totally fine with games like these being disabled forever, well, guess what? That's the position of the industry causing this entire problem in the first place. And that's the final point. Thor says he disagrees with how we're going about trying to end game destruction, but he also disagrees with the goal itself. No, wait, I want to be fair. He's only against 99% of it minus that tiny provision he made up. So once you understand that, then of course it makes sense that he's against the Stop Killing Games movement. Because we're trying to stop killing games. Now, if you're in Thor's camp and think killing all these games is fine and are as things should be, okay, then it's just a values clash. And yeah, you'll hate the initiative too. I'm not trying to tell you otherwise. But if you think you might have been misled about what the initiative is, hey, maybe look at it again. Tell others about it. Help undo some of the damage. There is still time. It closes July 31st. Thor lying about what the campaign is about, remember, second definition, has caused more damage to it than anything else I'm aware of. Now, I've heard some people say, no, it caused a Streisand effect and led to more coverage.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you look at the signature rate, it suggests the opposite. I've also been told a big streamer, like in that group I mentioned earlier, you know, the kind that are so big they could end this, avoided talking about Stop Killing Games because of Thor's take on it.
Ooh.
Remember, at the time he did this, Pirate Software was a well-respected developer looked up to by the internet community for having good takes on gaming. And I was, and still am, the weirdo with no credentials other than not wanting games destroyed. So with Thor being seen as the smartest guy in the room and firmly against the initiative, I think that led some internet figures to not want to touch this, lest they be seen like a fool in the eyes of Thor. Now, as I understand it, that risk may have lowered since then, but it doesn't really matter if nobody else talks about it, because he was there to kill the momentum when we needed it the most, and we never got it back. Okay, that's it on him.
Oh, fuck.
I did not enjoy having to do that segment, but I've had to do a lot of things on this campaign I don't like. Believe it or not, my goal was not to tarnish Thor's reputation. That's incidental. I don't care. He can be hailed as a national hero. Whatever. The goal was to expose the damage done to the campaign to try and fix it. I do think he's someone who would have defended the divine right of kings hundreds of years ago, but I don't wish him ill will. On the contrary, I hope he finds some peace of mind. Now you might be thinking, is this campaign really so fragile that one big streamer can sink it just by misrepresenting it? Oh, yeah, it totally is. It's been an uphill battle almost every step of the way. It sinks or swims to the whims of what big streamers do. It kind of reminds me of the Greek gods. That part about easy wins, that's for the politicians, not us. Ours are hard as nails. There are reasons it took me 9 years before I was ever able to actually do anything on this. It's a miracle it's gotten as far as it has. Now, I've seen people ask, if the initiative fails, then what's next? I have tried to explain this before. There is no next. What's next?
At least
was
not
a
for
year and
him.
a
I
half
could
ago
see
with
like
all those other things we've tried.
a
We're at the
random
final
person
phase
picking
now.
this up again.
The
but
European Citizens
for
Initiative
Frostgaia,
is our
this
last
probably
possible
over.
chance to change anything. See, there are things governments and consumer groups are doing, and then there are things that us, the general public, are doing. After July, I see nothing left for us. So does that mean Stop Killing Games has failed? Well, no, nobody knows yet. We won't know the answer to that for a long time, maybe years. Government moves slowly. The initiative will be what's failed, not everything else. Without the initiative, we still have about 5 other chances for this to work. We have the consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia, and possibly help from the BEUC and the UFC Que Choisir, though those are iffier. But all their work is underway. It's out of our hands now. Now, I've heard some say, what if we launch the initiative again? Well, someone else can try that, not me. I tried my absolute damnedest writing off the publicity of the cruise shutdown and barely got halfway. It took a chunk out of my life with almost nothing to show for it. No way am I gonna spearhead something like this again. I saw this as my only shot. I took it to the best of my ability. That wasn't good enough. I have no reason to think that doing it again will be successful. On the contrary, I think it would do far worse. Now that doesn't mean I'm being defeatist. I will continue saying yes to almost any opportunity that emerges until July 31st. I have some skepticism, but I am still available for Stop Killing Games until then. Though remember, you don't have to go through me at all. You just have to send people to the initiative. After that, no, I'm done. In fact, I think some people might be surprised just how done I am after July. It's not that I will have changed my mind on game destruction.
We got her.
It's just that there's nothing left after that. So I don't want to waste even more of my life on this. I've paid my dues. My income's dropped significantly since I started this because I haven't had time to make more fun videos which people would rather watch. And I don't blame them one bit. So besides being sick of running this thing, I have to make up for lost time so I can pay rent. Plus, believe it or not, I want time to actually play games and not just fight to keep them all the time. I'll still do the bare minimum if it helps. For example, Germany's consumer agency contacted me at one point because they wanted more information on the cruise EULA for their investigation. So I assisted with that. That was surprising because I have no authority on that at all, and I would have thought they would have had better sources.
No, it is totally sad. I think he's done like a way more than respectable thing here. He's done something pretty great, and hopefully something good can come out of this eventually. Like, I would really like it if something totally good came out of this eventually. And we still have, or the EU still has like a month and a week to get what, like 500,000 more signatures. So that sucks. It really does suck that that's not making a bigger outreach. But it's like, what else can be done now? The only thing that could possibly happen is if he goes through like a laundry list and says like, of all the people he found and is like, but he doesn't have any money left, right? That's a pretty big issue. He's out. He's spent. Somebody else would have to take this up, and nobody else is willing to. I totally think he should have held a fundraiser. He should have held a fundraiser and then spent his personal funds. But I think a lot of the issue with this is that he learned as he went. And he just, if he had all the knowledge he had at the end of this, but he had started with it, that would have been like best case scenario. So if he does this again in 5-10 years when he has more money, that would be great, but it would take like probably more than $1 million to actually see this done. At least $1 a signature, and even then, that's lowballing it. And then you'd have to get all the people who did help back into it, because they're probably like defeatist or apathetic now. Ross has done so much. I wish it worked out. I wish I could sign it, but I live in the US. If I was in fucking Europe right now, I would be fucking campaigning. I would be door-to-dooring.
Yeah, I can do pilot light activity like that if it really helps. Just no more campaigning. And don't get me wrong.
Okay, look, that's an exaggeration. I probably wouldn't be door-to-dooring. I'm a lazy fuck, but I'd definitely be contacting people on Twitter. If I was famous, I totally would be. We need Billy Mitchell to talk about
against people doing more after July. I just think your odds will be horrendous, and I don't want to dump my time into doomed causes. If the law on game destruction in the EU and Australia was as locked down as it is in the United States, I never would have even started this campaign. Now, I've said this initiative resulted in almost nothing. Well, we did get a little bit. For me personally, I got the feeling of knowing I did everything I could, so I won't have any more nagging doubts like, oh, if only I had tried harder, I could have saved video games. No, I can close the book on that. So I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror after this. That's a plus for me and anyone else who tried their best. But the only other thing I think the initiative accomplished was we inadvertently saved 2 games. This is hearsay again, but according to an insider at the company, Ubisoft announced offline modes for The Crew 2 and Motorfest because they were afraid the European Citizens Initiative would pass and thought this might kill some of the momentum. Ironically, I don't think they needed to have bothered. We were already losing momentum when they announced that because, well, you know why.
Pirate software.
But not killing games is the whole point of this, and I guarantee you Ubisoft had no end-of-life plans for those games prior to this movement. They were absolutely slated to die. Now, if I could have picked any 2 online games to save, I can't say those would have been my choices, but that is something tangible that the initiative changed. Assuming Ubisoft isn't lying. At the time of this video, they still haven't delivered on it yet. So is that it? Is that all the initiative accomplished? Well, without the signatures, sadly, yes, I think so. Now, some people might say, no, we did more than that. We shifted the narrative.
Yo, what's good?
So
Hi.
what? My only goal with this was to stop games from being
Finishing
destroyed.
up,
all the talk in the world won't
stop
fix that
killing
without
games.
action.
The end
Without
of stop
the
killing
initiative,
games.
any victory we get is going to come from one of these 5 packs we
All
opened
right, I have
up.
to pee. I will be right back to finish the rest of this, and then we'll watch the Dr. K interview with Thor, because that thing is fucking crazy in my mind. I need to finish programming my chat so that whenever I'm talking to somebody on a different platform, it doesn't make me seem like I'm schizophrenic. I actually have a viewer on Kick and Twitter or on Twitter. I don't stream on Twitter, Twitch and YouTube.
Speaking of which,
okay, so best chances without the initiative. A decision on the legality of game destruction from, I don't know what that is, DGCCRF using The Crew as a test case. Decision on the legality of game destruction from the Verbraucherzentrale using The Crew. A decision on the legality of game destruction from the ACCC. Decision from the BEUC. And help from the UFC Kinshasa.
what should we
I don't know how
expect
to
from
speak
that?
French.
I honestly don't know. I give all of these coin toss odds. I do think it is highly, highly likely Ubisoft is going to get fined for something by more than one agency. Don't take my...
I don't know if Ubisoft has any money left. They were like, right before Assassin's Creed Shadows, they were like dying. They were like, oh, we've ran into like the end of our fucking money. The part of the company's got to get like auctioned off now. And after Assassin's Creed Shadows, they're kind of I think they're gonna end up in the same boat because they're gonna run out of money before they can publish another like blockbuster game that'll save the company.
My word for it. German channel WBS Legal thinks the same. The problem in their eyes is that Ubisoft shut down the crew with only 3 months notice, and they should have provided more like 2 years. Yeah, hear me now, quote me later. If all that comes from Stop Killing Games is companies in the EU need to give 2 years notice before they shut down a game, then I will consider it an abject failure. It won't save games. That wasn't our goal. It'll piss off companies. Everybody loses.
I don't think that's an abject failure. I don't think that's a complete failure, but I also, like, it's not the goal at all, right? But it's definitely a step in the right direction. But, like, yeah, I kind of get it. Yeah.
But that's the risk of making this work under existing law rather than proposing sensible law under the initiative. Fingers crossed the agencies make a better decision than that. Now, since this is a wrap-up video and I don't know what the outcome will be, I might as well present both scenarios. First, if we win and have a clear victory through one of these avenues, oh boy. If I think I have threats and hate mail now, I bet I haven't seen anything yet. I'd like to say whatever happens because of these avenues, we didn't write them and never had any authority here.
Okay, one sec. I got a game on Humble Bundle that I can play. I just need to download it.
Could do was report the problem. The European Citizens Initiative is what was written by the movement, and that's what's failing. Now, for people who want my head over this, I doubt they'll care, but I wanted to point that out. I'll say right now, the transition could be bumpy. It all depends on how hard the industry fights it. And yes, it's possible it could end some games on death row prematurely. So games that were designed to die could still die, but after that, almost all games would start being protected. Because I know there's some clown that's going to find one example of a game shutting down early and then use that as proof that enforcing the law is bad, even though the industry was going to kill it anyway. That's the logic I'm expecting. So there could be bumps, but give it 3 to 5 years and it will smooth out, become an industry standard, and then you'll have people who were against it claiming they were for it all along.
Yeah.
Hey, remember how there were people speaking out against letting customers refund games before 2014, and they're kind of quiet now? I do.
Hopefully this doesn't fuck up the stream.
I think it'll be a lot like that. So that's
6
if we
gigabytes.
Win. If we lose, in other words, all 5 of these avenues get shot down, well, then things are going to be almost exactly like they are right now. Except,
yeah, worst case, nothing changes.
Then there will be no pretending we have consumer rights.
If there's not even like a pretension that we have consumer rights, then at least that might put other people back into the back into overdrive if all of those fail.
If you're a gamer, it will be codified into law that you're a consumer chattel who doesn't deserve to keep what you buy. Or if you're renting, informed of how long you get to rent. So, cool. The games industry brought back one of feudalism's greatest hits.
Yay.
Now, even that reality I consider preferable to what's going on now, because then we at least know we're legally screwed. Besides the obvious, what drove me crazy about this issue and the reason I started this campaign was because in many countries, no laws were ever passed on this. Nobody voted on this. Companies just started taking away your purchases. Nobody stopped them.
I think part of the issue though is that video games are still like relatively niche. Despite them being like an incredible market, I think video games are the 3rd or 4th largest industry in the world in terms of money. People-wise, it's actually relatively small compared to something like sports, animals, housing. And all of those are much more relevant to like what a politician is thinking about.
It slowly got normalized. It's felt like a coup.
This might be loud.
So the idea that hundreds of games are being destroyed just because we're letting it happen drove me up the wall. If we're screwed, let's be told that to our faces and not have contradicting laws pretending we have rights. Yeah, that's the one thing I can promise this campaign will deliver, which is answers. There will be no more frog boiling after this.
No more frog boiling.
Pops out of the pot or it's dead. Now, even if we lose 100%, it's not like I'll change my mind on thinking destroying creative works when people want to save them is wrong. I'll probably drift even farther towards trying to save game worlds at least. I made a video about this sort of thing. I'm optimistic about technology assisting with being able to extract environments from games and port them in the future. So hopefully we can salvage more from the ashes that are getting burned down in games. So that's Stop Killing Games. If you're depending on me to save the initiative, then I think it's going to fail. Skill issue, as they say. My only closing thoughts on this is that this is all just so stupid. It's stupid that we didn't have clear laws on this to begin with, that this practice continued for decades without clear laws on it, that it was going to continue without our intervention, that it takes so much work and so many people to even report a violation, that me, a chump YouTuber, was the one spearheading this, that it was easily derailed by a bigger YouTuber, convincing gamers that having their games destroyed is a good thing. It's all so stupid. I've heard some people say before that we're on the worst timeline. No, things could be so much worse. I think some people have no idea. But if you were to say we're on the dumbest timeline, I don't know if I could argue against that. See ya.
Oh, okay. So that is the Stop Killing Games video. What do you guys think? Jesus, yeah. Look, Pirate Software definitely isn't the, like, he's not the one who absolutely killed it. But he definitely could have saved it. There. So having him, like, against it definitely, like, sucked super bad. Like, if he was against it, and he was, it wasn't gonna go anywhere. If he didn't care, didn't say anything, then nothing. But, like, if he was for it, well, then that's not only him for it, that's his audience, which includes other YouTubers, that's a lot of other people in it. And in general, that's just, like, so good for the thing. And, like, I think out of everybody who could have helped a lot more, he could have... Oh? Wait, what? He was probably the most, like, instrumental in potentially saving the whole thing, so yeah, that sucks. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting used to this game, so that's not good. Alright, so let's watch the Dr. Mike, or Dr. K, or Dr. Mike interview with him. I think it's Dr. K. Interview Pirate Software. This is pretty long. This is like 3.5 hours long. Oh, wait, there was another one. Oh, he interviewed him a year ago as well? Jesus. This is pretty big. Destiny reviewed it. Like, almost every, like, drama person reviewed this. Destiny did, Chud did. A few other people. Okay. So we probably won't get through the whole thing. Is there, like, a highlights? That isn't, like, another person.
Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Dr. Oliver. Find a therapist to like. All right.
Starts with technical issues, I think.
But she's fine with humans. She was terrified of animals. It was very strange. And it's weird, especially with being afraid of other ferrets. It's very odd, right? So,
talking about ferrets here.
Probably a neglect situation where she's
Is there a timestamp?
Because it's all learned behavior. They're super social. So, but
let's go here.
Okay, so it sounds like here's the hate raid that you're talking about. Okay, so thank you so much for...
We expected, and that's why I wrote in there, I was like, you know, those trying to defend me, don't worry about it. We expected that to last like maybe 10 days. The internet generally doesn't care about things a super long period of time. 100 days?
Yeah,
still
so...
people in the chat like spamming and getting banned and like... That's wild.
This is you were right. This is wild. So we're gonna like try to understand this. Okay, so this is gonna be tough. Okay, so let me start with this. So let's say that you do something, right? Let's say you take an action in life. In the response, would you agree that the response that you are getting is disproportionate to the actions that you've taken?
I would absolutely agree with that, yeah.
Okay, so let's...
It doesn't mean I was in the right. It doesn't mean I was in the right. But I do think the response is disproportionate.
I'm with you, okay?
So, yeah.
So I'm going to start...
I don't have much to commentate on here. I've watched this like half a dozen times, and I don't want to go through the entire thing, because I think most of it is boring. Like, the first third of this is just talking about ferrets. But some key points to take away from this are basically, like, I don't know, maybe I should just watch it, but I'm not gonna... My brain is kind of... Maybe this isn't a good game for this. I feel like I have to focus a lot more on this than I did on Incision.
Huh?
I don't think it's disproportionate on an individual level, to be clear. I think each person individually that responds with that thinks that they're the only one responding with it, or that they don't feel like it's that big of a deal because it's just one person and they don't understand scale.
Can we skip to something more interesting?
So, there's another variable here, which is like content creators hopping on.
I don't know.
Content reactions, right? So each of these things is an amplifying effect. Agreed?
Yeah. Absolutely.
We go through the most watched sections. That might be the best way to do this.
Do you think that this plus these things is sufficient to explain, not say that it's justified, but explain what you are going through?
He's gonna say no.
I don't think so.
Yep.
I think the internet would have given up about it.
I completely agree. So I think there's a big variable.
It's too long-lived.
There's a big variable. You've tapped into something that people really don't like. Okay? So, and here's what I'm kind of hearing. So I'm going to just like write some things out here, okay? So these are just kind of things that you've said. And I wonder if this will like, if something will...
What have I said, Dr. K? He's interviewing me now. What have I said?
That's bad.
Yeah.
There's banning a lot of people. There is...
Maybe I should play Halo instead.
Ghosts dying. There is people...
That wasn't even the first time that happened.
Trolling you about this.
Dude, you got trolled.
Yeah.
Thor got trolled.
There's people calling you a pedophile. There's someone's kid calling you whatever.
Yeah, the Roach thing.
Okay. Roach thing? Oh, dude, he's so pissed off about Roach. He literally did the exact thing that, like... He didn't create the term Roach. It's for him fucking being a, you know, it's what he did on fucking World of Warcraft. That term was established for like a decade.
Right, and then the other thing is there's your like making sense of it. So there's like kind of this Gish Gallop. There's...
Oh, so you're saying he's Gish Galloping, okay.
You said something about these people... Like ... Like, you know, these people are like why are they doing this? Like you were talking about like what these people...
The best way I put it is, it seems like some people think that they want to be a part of that because it's something that's like greater than themselves. Like they're part of a story, they're part of a narrative. A lot of people that were engaging with OnlyFans stuff were seeing it as like being part of that, and they there were some of them who kept coming back and saying like, when are you going to jump back in and go and kill the people that called you out in that dungeon? And like they thought it was like a story, and they didn't realize like
everything's a story.
This is not like a reality show. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right?
How isn't it?
So
this is reality, and you're streaming, which is a show.
That was really, they thought it was like WWE. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Okay, so like you think that they think it's WWE, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They think it's like a show, right? They don't think it's real.
And then, so then you use this car analogy.
Okay. He's a car.
Of like, someone else has taken control of the car.
Yeah.
And then I'm driving. I'm not driving. I'm being punished.
Okay.
Someone else
Yeah, this is the issue with the video. It's so fucking slow. We're gonna speed them up to 1.75 times.
He is responsible. Does this make sense?
I would say someone else is fully responsible, but I think with that level, yeah.
Yeah. So when I write...
You can't control it. And when I say, like, someone else is grabbing the wheel, it's more like, that's not what happened. Here's what happened. But, like, I guess the basic way to put it is, like, if you're having a conversation with someone, they make an accusation. They say, you're a terrible person because of this thing. And you go, well, I didn't do that thing. And they go, that's just what the person who did this thing is. But, like, where do you resolve that at that point?
That's a great question. So do you know people, or have you heard of people who get accused of things and say, I didn't do that thing, but there are other people who continue to insist that they did that thing?
Yeah, it's called Every Day That Ends in Y on the internet.
Okay. What about things that are not on the internet?
I don't know.
Dude, it's so funny. He's already trying to deflect.
Yeah, so has there ever been someone in your life that...
Because it's so obvious that it's about the internet. That's literally what they're talking about right now. So why is he trying not to...
I was confident, like, I felt that before in my life, yeah. And then
right.
I either want, like, proof or not proof. I don't have any proof.
It's like such a general question. It's not about
if I have
the internet. It doesn't have to be about
this is how I feel about this. And then they go, hey, well, here's evidence to the contrary. I'll leave the pot out. That's generally how that is. I think when I was younger, it was a lot worse than that, obviously. That's something I think that you learn over time is, like, how to conflict resolve in a way that is sane, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so he's sane.
When I say he's sane, I mean, like, conflict resolve based on things like...
He wants to sound so smart, but he's just, like, wrong. He said, like, whenever you're younger, you learn how to conflict resolve. Not really. I think most people are kind of conflictless, or especially this is the thing, like, with, I guess, my generation. People are just so conflict avoidant. It's not, I don't know. I can't shoot through that.
Well, when I'm talking to people who are old, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I find that for me, there's very few people that are younger that can have conversations. There are still ones that will.
Did I just get invincibility after all the fighting?
Usually people past the mid-20s is when they start to be able to do conflict resolution better.
Okay.
Want more of a trust but verify kind of approach, which is like, I trust that you're telling the truth from your perspective, but I need to verify your claim before you get mad, right?
Okay. So I want you to just, like, we're going to tunnel down into that for a second, okay? So let me just understand this. So, like, people who, your method of conflict resolution sounds super reasonable, right? It's like, if you've got proof, then you push forward. If you don't have proof, you kind of let things go. And then when I ask you, how does that work? And you're like, well, if people are mature, it works great. But if it doesn't work for them, they're immature.
I wouldn't say they're immature.
I know you wouldn't say that. I'm using that word. You use the word young. But I think the implication of that is that there's like a value judgment on people who that works for.
There's a value
judgment on people who that doesn't work for.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, I actually do a value judgment. Like when somebody comes in and goes, you're this, this, and this. Like, no, I'm not. Like, and then they just feel individual. I just ban them, right? Like that value judgment. That point is like,
how
okay,
loud is
this?
It seems loud.
Able to have a normal conversation. They don't want to have a normal conversation. They just want to spew some like garbage. They don't care what's true. They just want to fight about it. And then I don't want them here, right? And that's where I do that kind of evaluation of like, are you cool enough to like, are cool-headed enough to have a conversation, or do you just want to shout what you saw on Reddit? You know, that's really what that is.
So what is so this is the trolling that you receive is fine, but for the people who got upset with you, what is your understanding of the most rational reasons why people got upset with you?
So, okay. Are there rational reasons for Thor to be upset? We finally got some meat. We got some juice. Are there rational reasons to be mad at Thor? Let's go.
It's because I was smug. Right?
What does that mean?
Yes, because he was smug.
In that moment, it appeared that I didn't feel remorse. And people thought that I didn't apologize. They thought that I didn't care. They thought that I wanted those characters to die or some weird shit with that. But no one stopped to actually ask me. They just saw all the clips out of context.
Wait, no, that's a complete misinterpretation of the situation. What the fuck? That's a complete misinterpretation. I've already seen it.
Villain, right? And like, I get that. But if you want to talk about that stuff, if you want to believe that, you should probably just come ask me.
So hold on a second.
Talk about it.
Whoa. People who did ask you were called trolls. And look, there were a lot of people who were like just straight up raiding his chat. But at the time, people who asked you were like just banned.
Know that they formed their opinions based on the clips.
Because they repeat verbatim the same message over and over again that we can only find on places like Livestream Fail, the Reddit. It is copy-pasted information, the same exact messages, the same exact thing. They had like the same phrases over and over again for this kind of stuff. And the only way that you get that is if people are getting it all from the same source.
Okay.
You've done more during your tweet? Yeah, and I said so in social posts, but nobody cared about those. I think that was one of the weirdest things about it. Is like, I said, yeah, I could have done more in this. I said everybody made mistakes in there, including myself, but no one cared. They just wanted
okay, he did not say that exactly. He is definitely lying about that, because that was a huge point that people had against him, but he doesn't like to listen to criticism against him, so yeah. I'm playing Millennium Dawn right now and raiding Iran. Fuck yeah.
Continue the drama.
So Thor, when I point this stuff out, do you
see that
anything?
Trump said fuck today? Trump said the fuck word today, and it's made the news. He's like, Iran and Israel don't know what the fuck they're doing.
With all the stuff that I've written out, like, does anything kind of pop to you or not so much?
Okay, wait, what has he written down? I can't read that. I can't read cursive.
Trying to deflect from, like, personal ownership over something, but I don't think I'm doing that, so I'm not sure.
Why do you say that?
Oh, so he says it looks like deflection, but he doesn't know why.
Yeah, so I think your assessment is somewhat correct. I think there's like a couple of things that are like blind spots, is what I would call them. So the first is that I've noticed that this is what's so tricky about this. I think that objectively you're correct. I don't think that anyone deserves the degree of harassment that you've received. I hope people stop. I really wish they stop, and I mean that genuinely. And at the same time, I notice just the way that I hear you speak, I notice certain blind spots or narratives that are constructed.
Absolutely.
I'm 100% talking about it, to be clear. Like, it's a defense mechanism entirely because of the fact that this has been going on for so long. It involves all of my staff. It involves my family. It involves
no. This is how he's been talked.
It involves all that stuff.
Like, this is how he talks forever.
In a time like that, without, I don't know. It's just hard to articulate, if that makes sense.
Okay, so that begs two questions. One important one, which is, are you sure that we should be talking about it?
Well, it's already too late.
No, it's not.
I'd rather talk about it.
No, it's not too late. We can stop. We can stop right this second.
I would rather talk about that, and the reason why is because I find, and this is a very serious part, right? I find that if you don't talk about this, it's not going to help other people, right? Like, I get it, I'm going through it right now, but this is something I think needs to be talked about because the amount of hate.
Look. The thing is that the Pirate Software's thing is so self-caused. I find like a lot of the issues that people have on the internet with like particular people, or at least like people like kind of in Pirate Software's same spot. It's not just like random harassment a lot of the time. It's usually because they've like touched a very specific nerve, and so like it's going to be caused by like particular issues, and I don't think just talking to a random therapist is going to solve that.
Isn't just going to happen.
Okay.
Is it going to solve internet culture, or even really be a step forward?
I don't know. Person who has tapped into something very fundamental.
Especially when the issue from this isn't caused by like random internet culture stuff. It's specifically caused by Pirate Software's fucking like insane actions
that has like triggered the shit out of people.
Likely, yeah.
Okay, so I want you to notice what just happened. Okay, so it's now that you're insisting that we talk about it. Fair enough. I said, hey, I'm noticing something about your narrative, and what was your answer?
That was like deflecting.
What do you mean?
It's, unless we're talking about something else.
No, we just talked about.
So he wants to be so smart. He's trying to preempt Dr. K, and he does this the entire time. He's trying to preempt every single thing that Dr. K is saying. Oh, okay. And just trying to be smart and be smarter.
Narrative. And then you said what?
Yeah. That I was like deflecting or trying to push off blame onto somebody else.
Okay. Yes. And then what did you say after that?
I don't remember.
Okay. So then what you said is the reason I'm doing it is because I'm anxious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100% anxious.
Right. I'm worried.
There we go. Okay.
Right. So the interesting thing is that like you're doing something really interesting, which is that like you provide a very logical reason, which is very compassion-inducing for why you are doing the thing that you're doing. Right. So like who in their right mind, when you say, yeah, the narrative that I'm creating is because I'm afraid for my physical well-being, like how is that challengeable?
It's not.
100%.
Yeah.
So I think what you are doing is something that is...
You're putting yourself into an area that can't be challenged.
You're doing something that's bad, and the way that you respond to it makes it unchallengeable. Like you're doing this thing over and over and over again.
Okay.
Right? So the way that you're...
would be negative about that, though.
What?
That's what I'm trying to understand. I said, what about that is negative?
That's a very excellent question. So now we get something really interesting about human psychology. So if I'm pissed at you...
Wait, what do you mean? That's obvious why that's negative, isn't it? Am I stupid? It's obvious why you shouldn't put yourself in an unchallengeable position. You don't get better if you're not challenged. Who are these people and what are they whining about? All right, so... one of the big players against Stop Killing Games, the thing that we were watching earlier, was this guy called Pirate Software. And he has had a bunch of drama in the past. I think like a week or two ago, I read through his furry sexting messages. And so there was a situation where he basically, in a hardcore group of World of Warcraft, which basically means that you can only die once. Once you die, you have to restart the character. Which takes hundreds of hours to get to the max end, and they were at the end. He let a bunch of people die. That is just, I don't know. I think that's the truth. That's the objective truth. He disagrees that there was nothing he could have done, but it's pretty obvious, like from his what he had on his bar, all the options he had. He totally could have done shit. So he was interviewed after this by a YouTube psychologist called Dr. K. He is an actual psychologist, although I believe he has a mark on his record for being a YouTube psychologist when he's not allowed to diagnose people through YouTube chats. Anyway, so this YouTube psychologist is talking with Thor, Pirate Software guy, and basically explaining to him that he has narcissism and not being able to get that through to Thor. But he's also not allowed to be direct with it, or else his fucking like license can be revoked.
And you take away my reason to be pissed at you. What do I do?
You get pissed.
And this whole thing is basically just explaining that, yeah, Thor does not, like, he cannot comprehend that he's narcissistic.
More pissed.
Absolutely. So how?
So you're saying that basically it's created a bunch of anger, and that, like, having a situation and talking about it and showing, like, hey, this is what's going on, it's created a scenario where people are more angry because they don't have a vent and a way of getting it out.
That is where we are. Hold on, let me just fix this real quick. Because I wonder if you're going quiet again, so I just jacked you up. So I think that is the first step to it, right? So there's something that there's something that people, deflecting is maybe a good word. There's something that you're deflecting that then triggers people to, like, because they're not getting what they want from you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
An alarm going off.
So now the question kind of becomes, like, I don't know if this sort of makes sense, but I think when I hear your story, what I hear is, and this is what's so tricky about it, is, like, I think everything you've said is logical, because you kind of base things on sort of proof, right? But I'm
sort of
noticing
base
that, like,
things
the
on
way that you
proof.
accept responsibility is like 1% of what your narrative is. So you say that you were smug.
Yeah,
Right.
I was super smug about it.
And
Yeah.
I think that feels like a tiny, tiny, tiny part of your narrative.
I think it's only a tiny part of the narrative because it's the flashpoint. It's the moment that started, right?
No,
Sure. So
this stuff
it's hard to-
started long before. Pirate Software had haters long before this. He has a Kiwi Farms thread, and people, like, it's not correct, whatever. But, like, people were very skeptical about his Kraken operation. Or Kraken? What the fuck? Kraken? I'm just reading off of the game. People were very skeptical of his ferret operation. Which was probably a bit unreasonable, but also understandable just from, like, the nature of people who do a lot of, like, research gathering, right? So, yeah. Wait, what else was I know I was gonna say something else. I'm just trying to say that he's had, like, controversy in the past before all this World of Warcraft stuff. It's not because of World of Warcraft that he's suddenly getting called a smug asshole.
To make that larger in the story? But yeah. I
think it sounds to me like, and, like, now I'm going to say something that's like, this isn't, I don't know what better word to say. I think it's not the flashpoint. I think it's the fuel.
Okay.
So
you think that was a catalyst or something else?
I think this sounds judgmental, but I think the way that you responded in that moment, so you said early on, you made some kind of, like, joke, right? Where like someone said run, and then you said, I don't want to piss them off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a joke instead of saying, bro, I ran because you told me to run. You remember when you said that?
Yeah.
So I think that there's, like, little things that you're doing that, so if I made the call to run, and then you ran, and then I was like, bro, why are you running? And then you say, you made the call to run. How is that, why would you not say that? Right? Like, the reason I'm doing this is because I was listening to you.
Yeah, no, legitimately, that's the one thing I've talked about this before. Is, like, if I would have just turned around and be like, you told us to. If I would have just said that, I feel like this whole thing would not have been like this.
I agree. So I think that the interesting thing here is that
I kind of disagree. Well, it definitely would have turned out like this, but there have been sections of World of Warcraft gameplay where Pirate Software is making himself the leader. He's talking himself up to be this really big guy. And so if a bunch of people die, even though he told somebody to run, there still would have been issues. The big thing is that he did not allow others to air grievances with him. And he was pretty much a smug dick about it.
I suspect that there are a dozen other things like that. So just the way that your narrative sounds to me, and let me know if, like, this is rubbing you the wrong way, or, like, you think I'm an asshole, or if this is like please let me know. But I think that something about this story has something that I would call the missing reasons.
Okay.
I'm not
for me, it's whatever it is, it's a blind spot.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, I'm just like, this was me being smug. and it exploded out of control. And for me on this side, it just feels like a lot of content creators leaped onto it because it got popular to talk about. It became kind of like an issue, and it generated a lot of views.
Yeah, so
and it just kind of went nuts.
And so I want you to just pay attention to that for a second, because you're doing it again. Why did this blow up?
Because I was smug?
No.
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Why did it amplify? Who's to blame for the amplification?
The amplification I could generally say is Reddit and other content creators. Like, I feel very steadfast
it's
in that
himself.
I don't think this would have reached the audience that it did.
He can't accept any fucking responsibility at all.
Over 100,000 viewers worth of people.
Yeah, so that I think is 100% true, and is indicative of what the problem is, right? Because what happens, what I'm noticing that you're doing is like every step of the way, you made one tiny mistake. But the way that you are reacting, I don't think a fire can get this big without a content creator's interaction. And the way that you're responding to each of these situations is only fanning the flames.
Absolutely.
And I think like you're saying this, right? Like you've tried everything. Like you've tried doing nothing. You've tried doing nothing, you've tried doing everything, and nothing seems to be working, which I know seems like nothing is working, but if you are consistently getting the same result and you are altering certain variables in that equation, what that implies is that there's one variable that's not being altered.
Yeah, and that's why I look to the outside source, because I'm like, I've altered the way that I interact with
But the outside source is relatively consistent, because people go through drama all the time. And maybe this is a leopard's ate my face moment. Maybe this is a moment where I can say this now, and a month from now when I'm in your position, I'm going to be like, holy shit, was I wrong? Right? Like maybe this is not the way, but your whole point is that the amount of hatred that you're receiving is disproportionate, not only to what you did, but is even outside of the norm of what other content creators experience. Like, yes. I've been through shit. I've had people get on my case and stuff
I think that is a bit fair. It did like blow up on a guy who all he did was like waste some of his friends' time, versus like, you know, he got more hate than like pedophiles did, right? At some points. I think that's like a fair criticism, I guess. But I don't know, quantity-wise, I don't think that's gonna change. Maybe like quality-wise, you know, I don't think he received like any worthy death threats.
Usually calms down, right?
Death threats that seem real.
Most of us,
death threats
we all get these kinds of problems
did.
where people like are really mean to us. I don't think they understand. No snowflake thinks it's responsible for the avalanche. But what I see is a guy who is, everyone thinks they're snowflakes, and you're getting swamped by an avalanche. They don't understand that. I think people on the internet don't now know how to understand it until you are on the receiving end of hate from thousands upon tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, and people who are just piling on. Once the bully starts kicking you when you're down, the internet is like 1,000 other people who are like going to get in a lick because it feels good. And I think you're doing something that is like absolutely hitting a trigger point. And I suspect that what you're getting into, just with the way that you describe things, it's very much like I did this tiny thing, and then all of this stuff is happening to me that I don't have any influence over. And objectively, these people are wrong. Objectively, I'm correct. And when someone does
that... Yeah, that is actually, that's nailing how he thinks. Pirate Software does think that he is correct. Now, he can change his opinion, for sure. But he will never have that moment of like, I was incorrect. It'll just be, I have a new opinion now and nobody has to know that I ever had the other one.
I am objectively wrong. I mean, I'm objectively right and you are objectively wrong. This is not what happened. This is what really happened. And by the way, all this shit is happening to me now. It's like a very like, it's a very like, you kind of get what I'm saying? I'm trying very hard not to say certain words.
I don't see it that way though. Like,
I know you don't.
Like an objective, objectively subjective that. I see it as, it's more of a deep emotional response from people that don't care about me or they don't care about resolving the situation. They want it to continue in some way.
Yeah, so
and,
I think...
I get it, but like, I don't want to be a part of your story. It's like,
right, so I think that's what's fueling the flames. You don't see it that way.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how that...
Right, so when I
why would you care for so long?
We'll get to that in a second. But I think that this is another thing, which is
that I just care because it's funny. I think you're kind of a lol-cow because of your personality. You have no ability to like change.
I don't think you are doing.
And I think it's funny.
But I think everything you're saying is pretty incomplete. Right, so you're saying like, okay, there's a parasocial aspect. You're completely right. Like, you're right
I don't
everything
care.
You're saying. I just think the main mistake, if you can call it that, the cognitive process that is really getting you in trouble is incompleteness. So
I don't understand.
I know. I know. I'm like 99% confident that this is going to be very hard.
To be fair, if he thought that Pirate Software would fucking... If Pirate Software knew what he was talking about, he wouldn't be here, right? Because Pirate Software would have fixed it already because he's like a narcissist. Not a narcissist. I mean, if you know you have a problem, why wouldn't you try to fix it, right? But you know what I mean.
This is why you're in this situation, because this is like, it's like, you're like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know. I've tried everything. What they're saying is just not true. The reason that I know that these people are not valid is because they copy pasta each other, right? You see how much...
No, I think that's not everyone, right? There are some people that are just upset because they saw me as like some pure holier-than-thou content creator, which that's not realistic. I'm a human being.
So this is another thing. Like, it's very hard for me to believe like any of Pirate Software's opinions because he'll change it just to be more correct. So if he can sense that the other guy thinks that he's wrong, he will change it to like appease them. Maybe that's too negative on my part, but I'm do think that.
Whoa. No, I don't agree with that.
No, I definitely do, because there are some that have messaged me with stuff like that. There are definitely people that felt that.
Yeah, I know they felt that, but I don't think that you're an ordinary content creator. I don't think you're an ordinary human being.
I just pause, Andy.
What?
Yeah. How do you think about yourself?
I don't know. I don't, generally.
I think therein lies another problem.
He doesn't think about himself?
I know it's weird, like I'm sending you a lot of weird stuff. Right, so I think that if you don't think about yourself on a regular basis, the version of yourself that you will have on your mind that then projects out to the outside world is not going to be an ordinary human being. I think you project exceptionalism.
I'm not sure I understand, but...
I can understand that. So I think that this is going to be a situation where it's going to be very hard, and I'm going to do my best. So the first thing is I'm not right. But I think that there's something about the way that you construct narratives, there's something about the way that you are objective, but other people are subjective.
Okay.
How do you know that you're not the subjective one, and they're not the objective ones?
I absolutely am subjective. I don't think that that's the case at all. There's no way that...
No, wait, what? How do you think you're subjective?
Absurd.
And if we go back and listen to the conversation that we had from now, would we be able to predict?
We got a smart guy over here.
I don't know.
I think the answer is going to be no, right? So when I ask you why do they feel
you
this way,
think, therefore you are.
You say, well, objectively, you rely on proof. And if you're dealing with people who are mature enough, then they understand that. But if they're people that are younger than you, that means that they don't. These young kids nowadays are not proof-oriented. There's parasocial, and the tricky thing about this is that you're not wrong. So I would agree with every single one of the statements that you made. But I think that
it's a defense mechanism for that. 100%.
But defense mechanism means what?
No, it's a defense mechanism on my end. And the reason why I did that is because it's gone on too long. And it's gotten to that point where it's hard for me to have a response that is not an emotional response.
Oh shit, I'm gonna
like,
die.
we talked about this before. Is like, whenever I feel like I'm having an emotional response, I just stop and I walk away for a moment, come back to it. But with this, I'm getting back into that old habit of like, I need to deflect this, I need to diffuse this. This is kind of a wall in front of this. I don't even want to, and you just kind of put it up there and walk away from the scenario. And that's literally what that is. Which is, here's my evidence, take it or leave it. And the reason why it ends up being, here's my evidence, here's how I feel people are, this is the objective fact of this, is because we've had tens of thousands of people bringing that up, and it's just turned into like a callus, if that makes sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense. How are you feeling about this call, by the way? Like, is this okay?
This is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is fine.
I think this is what you're. So here is what has contributed to the situation, which doesn't mean that you did something wrong. I don't think you're bad or anything like that. But I think that this tendency to walk away from your emotions and lean into logic, I don't think works very well. So I think, like, remember how we said that something that you're doing about the way that you respond to this is like triggering people harder. They're getting angrier and angrier and angrier. They're not letting up. Whereas like most content creators, people basically move on to trolling someone else. So anytime a content creator, like reaches out to me and they're like, hey, I'm really struggling, I'm like, best thing that you can do is wait till they move on, because the internet is an ugly mob, and this is the other thing that you're running into, which we haven't talked about. I do think that what you project is exceptional. And one of the things that the internet absolutely loves is to take an exceptional person and make them bad. So we love tearing down people who are good, and we love redemption arcs as human beings. Right? There's like, this person thought they were the best thing since sliced bread, and we're gonna fucking tear them down. I've been on the receiving end of that a lot. And then the flip side of that,
I think that makes a lot of sense. And to be clear, I don't think of that about myself. Like at all.
You don't think you're exceptional.
Constantly going over anything that I can do.
You don't think that you do anything that's like exceptional or out of the ordinary that's good.
I believe you do that for the stuff that you are aware of.
Yes, for the
you can't do it otherwise, right? Like how
things that I'm aware of, for sure.
100%. So I think
I don't think I'm better than other people. I do think that it's funny because you can't. There's a lot of people that brought that up, and it's like I never said that I was. But you'll see there's a number of people in there that are getting like banned for this shit right now. It's like they come in and they're like, did you know that you worked at Blizzard for 7 years? Like, yeah, that was my career. And I'm proud
no,
of
look, there are certain aspects where Pirate Software should think that he's better than other people. Other people aren't running like a ferret charity. Other people aren't like, that good at coding that they can make a game.
That is the problem right there. So I want you to listen to this phrase. This gets misconstrued as arrogance, but in reality, it's this. Yeah. That is the most arrogant statement on the planet, bro.
Yeah.
Like, tell me I'm wrong.
He's saying, I'm so perfect, but I'm still not better than anybody. That's what that feels like. It's like, guys, I'm not better than you. I just run a ferret farm. I'm just a very successful streamer. I just know how to manipulate the online social media algorithms. I just do all this shit. But guys, I'm not any different than you guys.
I don't see it that way, but all right.
Right, so, you don't see it that way. You're wrong.
No.
Right? I'm right. So you're subjectively, you're thinking you have blind spots. You're wrong. Like, I'm objective and you're subjective.
No.
This is not the way it's perceived. This is really the way it is.
I think that turns into, I guess, conversational PvP for the sake of it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It absolutely turns into conversation. That's what you're doing.
When I say I'm doing this for context?
Yes, when you're saying other people get it wrong, and here's the reality of it. Like, go back and like we can like rewind the stream and just listen to the structure.
That is me being adversarial against people that are trying to make it out like that is an arrogance thing, that it's a boasting thing, like I'm trying to push somebody else down. That is absolutely being adversarial against that kind of speech. 100%.
I don't think it's so. I think there's a construction in your speech, and there's a theme. If we listen, I know it's kind of hard, but you do things that are objective, right?
And subjective. No, human being.
Which ones do you represent? Which ones do we hear when we hear you talk?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay. I don't understand what he's asking either.
If we were to code statements as subjective or objective, okay?
Okay.
Like, so coding a subjective statement is, let's say, like, I'll just give you an example. you know, why are people getting mad at you? Or you said something about, you know, I rely on proof. So if I were to code that...
It doesn't mean you don't.
I know.
I feel like somebody could take it that way, but it's
not.
not.
That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying.
So we were to code
he's getting ahead of
that
himself.
gets coded as objectively, right? That's an objective statement.
Okay, sure.
So here's a subjective statement. I feel like this is unfair.
Okay.
Have you said that at any point?
Yes.
Over this conversation?
I feel like I have said that because I was talking about the response is not proportional.
There we go. That's hold on. No, that's beautiful. That is the response is not proportional. That is not a statement of subjectivity. That is a statement of fact.
Okay.
But you're
Do you understand how I'm
using
coding it?
subjective stuff to
that's
like
me making an objective statement when I guess somebody else could say, no, it is proportional, you deserve this sort of a thing. I guess the thing is I just don't agree with that stance, so I
do that right?
I do, right, with that. And I don't know if that's wrong, though, because I feel like there's a limit that seems sane. And by sane, I mean correct, and like not...
Absolutely, man. There's absolutely a limit that seems sane.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be different for everybody.
No.
Whatever their version is.
No, it's not. Because you didn't say there's a limit. It's because you used the word sane. Sane is like an objective thing, right? Sane is like crazy, insane versus sane. That's not a subjective thing. That is an objective kind of assessment, right? So like if we say that someone is insane, we're not saying that they're subjectively insane. We're saying that they are objective. Like those words are about an objective dimension.
But I'm not sure I understand the direction of this, and I think the reason why is because when I'm talking
about he wants to get ahead of it, so he doesn't understand what the direction of it is. Like, I don't know, it really feels like his goal isn't to learn, it's to, like, almost, like, one-up Dr. Mike here. Dr. K, sorry. Dr. Mike is the guy, it's a different doctor. But that's what it feels. He wants to know where the conversation is going. He wants to know the direction so he can one-up him, and then Dr. K is just like, no. What? It's, like, obvious where I'm going. How do you not understand?
Are really fucked up. Like, I do think that it is correct to make an objective statement to be like, you shouldn't be sending me pictures of my house from Google Ads. Right?
I agree. I
don't think that's wrong.
So great. So let's take a step back for a second. Are you sure this is okay?
Yeah. No, I guess I just don't understand the direction of subjectivity versus objectivity.
I'm with you. So I'm slow playing it. So let me be explicit. So remember, this goes back to what you are dealing with is disproportionate, right? So there's a variable that's missing. Okay. Something about the way, and now I'm making an objective statement. Okay, it's not about blame. This is about assessing the way that you are existing on the internet and the response that happens to you. There's something in here objectively that is disproportionate.
Yes.
Okay? And this is completely, and even if we say, oh, here's the reason and you're to blame for it, I don't think that there's any reason that we can come up with that justifies other people's behavior. Does that make sense?
On some of these cases, yes.
Yeah, okay. So,
yeah, I think there is a limit.
Now what I'm trying to get into is precisely this, which is your, and sounds arrogant, but I'm going to say, so it's clear to me that you have blind spots about this. Because something about the way that you are navigating, you have a rubric for how you interact with people. And something about that rubric is fucking triggering people. So what we're trying to do, so how did you feel when I said that?
I thought it was funny because, like, I guess for me it's a kind of a dumbing down of the scenario, right? Of like, yeah, it's triggering people, but it's so much more than that, but yeah.
Okay.
It's leading them to do things that...
But this is his one-up. I feel like this is a part where psychologically he's... I'm not a psychologist, okay? I just watch too much Fish Tank. This is the part where he's like given up and he's like, oh, I can one-up you because you, even though you're smarter, you're making things sound stupider. And it's like, dude, just give him a fucking chance to talk.
Right, so I think the end game that I have here is to hypothesize what could be responsible for that gap. So in my experience, when something like this happens to someone like you, I think you're a decent dude. I think it sounds like you made a smug comment and you ran away from the raid. It's a fucking hardcore raid. So I don't know what people were expecting. You know, like when you play WoW hardcore and you raid, sometimes things go bad and people die. Like that's just what happens in a WoW hardcore raid. Like what were people expecting? But I think what you're tapping into some energy that is like that I think you're blind to. You don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. And my point is that the reason it doesn't make sense to you is because of the way that you are looking at the world. Which is that if you pay attention to your statements are coded very objectively. And so then what happens is once you start looking at the world in terms of proof or not proof, I don't know if you're right, I don't know if you're wrong, but the question then becomes, how do two people that think that they are both operating based on reality, who disagree, how do we patch that up? How do we bridge that gap?
I mean, generally what I see with that kind of stuff is the way I like to do is you kind of present evidence and stuff, you talk about it, you find out if you were right, or if they were right, and sometimes you're both wrong, right? Like it just comes out to that, you learn something, you move on. Sometimes when it's like, I find it to be disingenuous, right? And I will use that as an objective term. I find it to be disingenuous to have a person come in that is not interested in resolution, that just wants to cause a hateful situation.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's most of what I'm getting with this. And when they can't get me, it makes them angrier. When they can't hurt me, it makes them angrier. When they can't do anything about it, they can't shut down the stream, it makes them angrier. We get tons of people that come in and
no,
people still watch this
super wrong.
Yeah.
Dude, also like this is like a defense tactic, I feel. He's only talking about the most extreme of peoples who like sent him threats or want to ruin his life or change his like career trajectory to go straight down into the fucking toilet. That's not what I think like the vast majority of people want. Well, the vast majority of people just want to point and laugh, to be real. But I think the vast majority of people who genuinely do care about the situation, which is like, oh, well, whatever. They just want like an apology. They want to be like, oh, you had stuff that you could do, admit that you could have done something else, and say sorry. And that's like it. I feel like it really is as simple as that.
I feel like
it's really that
when I make those objective statements, it's because I go,
I won't please absolutely everybody, but definitely please a good portion.
Your only reason to be here is to cause problems. It's not going to be compatible. But if you want, and I tell people all the time, it's like, if you want to talk about this, we can talk about it. But if you're just here to copy paste something off of Reddit, cause a scene, and then get banned, like, we just don't care. Just get banned.
Okay, so I think what makes this, yeah. So I think what makes this really challenging is not that you're wrong. I think what makes this hard is that you're right. Okay, so when you're wrong, it is easy to show a correction, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you're right, but incomplete, it becomes harder to show a correction. So like, let's say that I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like if I develop a product that is crappy, that is successful, that happens to be successful, it is way harder to understand how that crappy product is crappy. Does that make sense? And I'm not trying to analogize you to a crappy product. I'm really just using this as an example I mean, I love your content. Like, I really do. I think you're a great guy. Like, I don't think you deserve this. I'm in your corner, okay? But you see what I mean? I'm just using that as an example of, like, if you make a crappy video game, right, and then, like, people play it, that doesn't make the video game good. And trying to explain to someone, hey, I know y'all think that Oblivion is an amazing game. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. But Oblivion is the start of the decline of the Elder Scrolls series. Oblivion is the first step in the wrong direction to what ended up as Starfield. That is something for a lot of people to have difficulty understanding. Right? Because Oblivion was a great game. It's a 10 out of 10. But if you want to really understand the glory that was Elder Scrolls, you have to play Morrowind. And
Chad is very divided on this topic.
Chad's wrong. Like,
no, okay.
It's okay. Sometimes I get to be right and they get to be wrong. But,
free objective statement.
Absolutely, right? So, and how do people respond to that?
I mean, it depends on the context, right? I think that there are moments where you can make statements like that and it's funny.
Yeah, so I think what makes this hard in your situation is that everything that you say is correct. I just think it's incomplete. So what I'm basically getting a sense of is that you tend to, since you move away from some of this, like, emotional energy, and you lean in, so the first thing that happens is once you suppress your, like, emotional circuitry, your emotions still influence your logic.
Okay. I can see that. I think in times of deep stress, that gets more so.
100%. It gets very, very, very good, right? So it's not that the emotions stop. It's just that we start dissociating from them. Dissociation doesn't mean shut down. It means unaware. And then what happens is the emotions will shape our logic. And it's not that they're illogical, it's that it becomes more selective.
Sure, I can see that. That makes sense.
This is very psychological. This is not stuff I know anything about.
Has what I would call missing reasons. So I know that's confusing. There's a great post about it that I think a therapist.
My girlfriend would love this.
Sometimes when people tell stories, and, like, bad things are happening to them, they are leaving out things that evoke the response of the other people.
Honestly, I'm having a hard time following. I might cut the stream here because I'm non-10 right now.
It's the internet, and it's parasocial, and people are reacting. There's something missing there. I don't think you can evoke.
And I think this gets the point across that I'm trying to point out is that Thor has, like, a really hard time understanding shit. I do recommend watching this video in your own time if you want, like, a really good analogy of, like, Thor, or what he's doing, what he's up to, and all that kind of shit. Ooh, plasma gun. But I think it's about time for me to head out anyway. Maybe I could just give it a few more minutes, but I think I'm gonna call it. Just because, like, I don't know. I'm literally adding nothing to this. I think Thor just has a lot of issues. If you live in the EU, if you happen to be watching this and live in the EU ever, go ahead and subscribe. Not subscribe. Or if you're watching this until July 31st, 2025, go sign up for Cursed Farms fucking petition at Stop Killing Games. It's super cool. You'll get to play Genshin Impact forever. Probably not actually Genshin Impact. You'll get to play World of Warcraft. Probably not World of Warcraft. You'll get to play Overwatch 2 forever. And yeah. Purple thing. There we go. I didn't get to TommyC-ontent. I'll get to TommyC later. Probably on Thursday. I think there still needs to be some more stuff to come out, but I actually, after uploading my video, I think it's largely over now. Just because I think Tommy apologized for, like, his most insane thing and is just not willing to apologize for the other stuff. Chud, I think, is done covering it until Tommy says something else, but besides all, like, the really weird shit, I think nothing else is going to happen with the Tommy C stuff. So Thursday, covering that. Hopefully if something else comes out. But yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a pretty decent stream until I got to the Dr. K stuff. Also, if you want to hear about Wilbur Soot, I actually just uploaded a stream highlight that covers the original allegations and both of his responses. Because he responded in Twitter originally, and then his current response. So yeah, that covers everything. Have a good night, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the stream at least a little bit. I'll see you all probably on Thursday night.